gentlemen, welcome to Ariel Helwani's MMA Show!
Back in your life on this Monday, February 25th, 2019. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani. Welcome back to the program. Hope you had a lovely weekend. There is so much going on in the world of mixed martial arts. And yes, I know I say that every week, but it's true. A ton going on. And in fact, we just got some breaking news. So let me get to that right off the top before we get into today's lineup and all the other stuff that's happened since we last talked 7 days ago. The Nevada State Athletic Commission just announced that Dillon Danis will be receiving a 7-month suspension as a result of his part in the UFC 229 post-fight melee. He's also been fined $7,500. That's US dollars. And this, of course, is retroactive to October 6th of last year, meaning come May 6th, he will be good to go. He's kind of been in limbo. He's been on the sidelines for quite some time. He's been wondering if he's going to receive any kind of suspension. And so now the entire 229 picture has just been wrapped up. And if you're keeping score at home, Zubaira and Abu Bakr got a year. Khabib got 9 months with the ability to drop it down to 6, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be doing that. In fact, it sounds like he's going to be sitting out for a year. Conor got 6 months, and Dillon Danis got 7. If I'm being honest, I feel like this is a little harsh considering the fact that he really, if you want to say that he instigated it or ignited it, fine. There's still no real evidence that he actually said anything or did anything that would warrant a 7-month suspension. But now we know, and the whole thing is up in 2.5 months, so I guess no harm, no foul. Although he had already said that he was supposed to fight in either January or February, and those opportunities could not materialize because of this. But all right, so that's it. 7 months for Dillon Danis. That's news that just happened literally 10 minutes ago. But as far as the other news that's happened since we last talked, well, a lot has been going on. We have been wondering for quite some time what is going down with UFC 236, April 13th. Where is this fight happening? Who's going to be fighting on the card? All that has been answered. So it's April 13th. It's Atlanta, Georgia. Last time the UFC was in Atlanta, coincidentally, was when Tyron Woodley became welterweight champion when he knocked out Robbie Lawler. We now know that the main event, in fact, it's a historic card. And I think it's a historic card for a rather dubious reason. First time in UFC history that there will be 2 interim title fights on the same card. Main event is Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, a rematch of a fight that happened at UFC 143. In fact, that was Max Holloway's UFC debut. It was at featherweight. This one's happening at lightweight. Also, you see right there, co-main event, Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya, also for the interim middleweight title. Main event is for the interim lightweight title. There you see some other fights that have been officially announced, but let us focus on the top 2. For those listening, Eric Anders, Khalil Rountree, Wilson Hayes, Alexander Pantoja, Montel Jackson versus Andre Sukumtat. I got in there before my man Jay got rid of the full screen. But here's the thing. The co-main event is fine. Co-main event is okay. It's acceptable. In fact, it's the right move. Robert Whittaker, who we will hear from later on in the program, is still recovering, just got out of the hospital, is back home recovering. The collapsed bowel, the internal hernia, all that stuff and more. We've already said both men, Kelvin, Israel, were promised title shots. Give them a title shot. They're getting paid like it's a title shot. It all makes sense. I like it. It's the right call. The main event is a little strange. Initially, it was going to be Max Holloway versus Tony Ferguson, and it seems like everyone is in agreement that Tony Ferguson should be fighting for some kind of belt. Well, that didn't materialize. Tony Ferguson hasn't talked publicly about why. He's sent out some cryptic tweets here and there, but he hasn't really fully explained why. So they moved on from Tony, and they went in the direction of Dustin Poirier. No one really argues that Dustin Poirier should be fighting for a belt as well. The Holloway part of it all, I mean, Holloway is the featherweight champion. Why is he fighting for an interim belt? How does this really make sense to me? Poirier versus Iaquinta would have made a little more sense. I don't hate the fact that Holloway's going up, but then what happens to the featherweight title? It just makes now both divisions a little more confusing. Also, is the winner of this fight really going to fight Khabib next? Is that really going to happen? Or is this like a Colby Covington RDA situation where they're just fighting for an interim title and then that title will be dissolved? lest we forget, Tony Ferguson won an interim belt. He had it stripped after he tripped over that cord at the Fox Sports studios a week before UFC 223. I mean, the guys, like, to me, that shouldn't have happened the same way Robert Whittaker shouldn't have been stripped. And so now you're creating a second interim lightweight title. It creates a bit of a mess of a situation. What it also does, most importantly, is it almost like muddies the waters for these particular fights. Again, co-main event, I'm fine with. That main event is great. That main event is awesome on its own right. It doesn't need a title. It really doesn't. You have the interim title in the co-main event. There's your one title that you have to have on every pay-per-view. Just do Holloway versus Poirier. Now, maybe you can't get Holloway to move up if it's not for a belt. Maybe you can't get Poirier to fight if it's not for a belt. But to me, slapping on the interim title almost makes it it clouds what is a great fight. And I understand it's easy for me to sit here and say that. These men are fighting for the dream of one day holding that belt. But golly, just when it seemed like we were moving away from those interim titles, here they are back again and better than ever, in the sense that there's now two on the same card. So congratulations to Atlanta. You're getting two interim title fights. They are great fights. I will say that one more time. They are amazing fights on paper. It just seems a little funny that A, it's not Tony Ferguson fighting for one of those interim belts, and B, you have the featherweight champion, and there's kind of a queue now building up at 145, and he's moving up to fight for an interim belt. Like, I can understand if he's fighting to become a dual champion and fight for the actual lightweight title, which is what he was trying to do last April in Brooklyn. But an interim belt? Weird. This is the problem with having so many pay-per-views and having to plug in those holes, as opposed to just taking the best fights possible and putting them on pay-per-view and not being beholden to the pay-per-view providers. So that's UFC 236. I would say that was the biggest news of the week, but it's really not. The biggest news of the week happened Thursday in Montreal, my hometown. George St. Pierre officially announced his retirement, and he did it. I mean, everything George St. Pierre, I've said it, you've heard me say it a million times. Everything that George St. Pierre does and has done throughout his career is the right thing to do. He has always made the right choice. And in this particular case, I mean, how often in this sport have we seen someone, A, retire on top, B, put on his own press conference and do it the right way, do it the classy way, thank everyone. He called everyone personally the night before. Every single person that has played a part, big or small, in his legendary career, he called on the phone personally. No one told him to do this. Even his managers, ex-managers, that he had a falling out. He had a falling out with these people. Shari Spencer, Stefan Struve, he still called them and thanked them. Some conversations, I was told, lasted 5 seconds, but he still went out of his way to do that. That's the kind of mensch that GSP is. He is the greatest of all time, 26-2, 37 years old. He walks away as the double champion who never lost those belts. He avenged the only 2 losses in his career, and it was such an honor for me to be there. And I just want to thank ESPN one more time for sending me out there, getting an opportunity to sit down with GSP for 30 minutes. And it was the last interview that he did that day, and talk about his career and talk about why. We know now that he tried to get the Khabib fight. He found out that it was not in the cards for him, that the UFC was not interested in that fight. And I can understand why. Like I was saying, there's a long queue at 155, much like there's a queue at 145. In fact, the queue at 155 is longer than 145. So I can understand. I don't begrudge the UFC for saying no to that fight, even though it's a money fight and it would have made them, a ton of cash. I get why. He left them hanging after winning the 185 belt. He left them hanging after winning or after defending successfully the 170 belt way back when. I can understand why. But for him to go out that way on the winning streak, at a press conference like that, doing it the classy way, it's just something that we don't often see in combat sports, let alone this sport. And it was for me, it was an emotional day. I've said it before, UFC 65, my favorite moment in UFC history, watching that win at Champ Sports Bar in Montreal, seeing him win the belt for the first time against Matt Hughes. The way the crowd erupted, the sense of pride that I felt as a Montrealer to see one of my own win the belt. It really, that night, I remember it vividly. I remember saying to myself, I want to be a part of this sport. I want to be a part of this movement. And he inspired me. And I don't often like to make interviews about myself. I know that's contrary to some people's beliefs. I really don't. But I was kind of weighing in my mind the entire time. Should I say something to him about that? Should I not at the end? I did. I'm happy I did. And it was such a cool moment. I hope he stays retired. I hope he doesn't come back. It is going to be impossible to top that. I don't know if anyone will be able to walk away in a better fashion. And I loved what he said to the fighters at the press conference regarding, you tell them when it's time to leave. You don't wait for them to tell you. I thought that was amazing. I hope that that's his greatest gift to the sport, teaching fighters that, it's okay to leave when you're on a roll as opposed to sticking around a little too long. I mean, on a week where we saw Anderson Silva booked against Jared Cannonier, I don't want fight. Like, it's fine. You make your money, you do your thing, but that's the way to go out. And to me, when you talk about the greatest of all time, you have to talk about the entire body of work. So now that his entire body of work is done, now you can gauge if he is the greatest. Other guys, Anderson, Fedor, they stuck around a little longer. They lost, and that affects their place in history. GSP walking away on that winning streak with the most victories in UFC title fights, coming off a victory over Michael Bisping at Madison Square Garden, becoming a double champion. Like, it's going to be very hard to top that. So for me, it's GSP, Daniel Cormier, John Jones. I know a lot of people begrudge me for saying DC, but the fact that he's undefeated at heavyweight, 14-0, if not 15-0, double champion, that's something that John Jones didn't do. And of course, when you talk about GSP and DC, there's no black clouds hanging over their legacies. There are no PD infractions, and I think that should count for something. So congratulations to GSP on an amazing career. Later in the program, we're going to talk to his longtime head coach, Firas Zahabi, about him walking away. Let me run down today's lineup, and then we shall get to our first guest of the day. And, of course, we're coming off the UFC in Prague, their first show in Prague, Bellator in Dublin. What a crowd that was. So there's obviously a lot going on, and we are on the road to UFC 235 this weekend in Las Vegas. Robert Whittaker will stop by, talk about how he's feeling following that surgery just a couple of weeks ago. I'm looking forward to talking to the reigning, defending UFC middleweight champion. We'll talk to Paul Felder, who's also out of the hospital at around 3:35, and we'll talk to him about how he's feeling after having that surgery on the collapsed lung that he suffered in his fight against James Vick last weekend in Phoenix. Jeremy Stevens will stop by at around 3:20, and we'll talk to him about his big fight, which airs on ESPN this Saturday against Zabit Magomed Sharipov. Big fight for Little Heathen coming off his loss to Jose Aldo. I'm looking forward to talking to him. How about Ice Cream Kron Gracie coming on the show for the first time at 3:05? The man who has everyone talking in the sport of MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the son of Rickson Gracie, the grandson of Helio Gracie, the nephew of Royce Gracie. Kron Gracie coming off his UFC debut, his successful UFC debut in Phoenix, will stop by at 3:05. Firas Zahabi will stop by at 2:45, talk about GSP walking away and his legacy and their time together. The aforementioned Dustin Poirier will be on at 2:30, talk about his well overdue title. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm happy for Dustin. I want that to be clear. I'm happy that he's getting it. I'm not even gonna worry about the interim stuff because it just gives me a headache. Just take it. Just fight for the belts. Fight for all the belts. Make the entire card title fights for all I care. Dustin Poirier is fighting at 2:30. He'll be joining us at 2:30. We're going to have two in-studio mystery guests at 2 o'clock. They'll be making a big announcement. Stay tuned for that. Mystery guest, 2 o'clock. Stay tuned. Tatiana Suarez will be on at 1:45, one of the very best at 115 pounds. The aforementioned James Gallagher will be on. Did I mention James Gallagher yet? Well, I mentioned the Dublin show. It was all about James. The Strabanimal looked amazing in his victory in the main event on Saturday back at the Tree Arena, as they call it. But first, let us talk UFC Prague. Let us talk to the man who won in the co-main event. Let's talk to the skyscraper, Stefan Struve, who had the big win over Marcos Rogerio de Lima and also made a very big announcement afterwards. Stefan, how are you? Congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It's good to be back home. It was a nice short flight yesterday, so everything's great.
Okay, so here's the big question right off the top, because you made the announcement. It was emotional. It was a great moment coming off the win. You took off the gloves, which is symbolic of someone who was walking away. You put them in the center of the cage. But you didn't commit 100%. You said, it feels right. You're not quite 100%, but it's something you've been thinking about. Here we are 2 days later. Have you made up your mind? Have you officially decided to retire?
Yeah, I feel good with it, man. I talked to my people here, and I told them the thing is, when you really plan for a fight, a retirement fight, and you tell everybody and you go over it, I barely ever see someone win that fight. We talked about it a bunch. The people that are important to me. I talked to my coach about it. It came up when the issues with my heart first came up, of course. What are we going to do? Is it an option to retire? It just didn't feel right at that point. I've been thinking about it a lot. And then to get a win like this, what I say, we see too many people go out on a loss or multiple losses, and I don't want to go like that. So it feels good, man. I'm happy.
I was wondering when I saw you make that announcement and I heard what you said, I was wondering if you heard GSP's message on Thursday where he spoke to fighters and said essentially, you tell the promoters when it's time to leave. You don't stick around too long. Did that affect your decision-making at all?
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
Of course, I heard he retired, but I didn't hear that speech. I was focused on my fight, so.
Okay. And you feel were you waiting for one more victory to do this? Were you going to stick around as long as you could, you could actually get fights and be healthy, get that victory, and then do this? Was that what you were waiting for?
I was just waiting for the right moment, and after the last couple of fights, of course, you lose and you're so disappointed and you don't want to think about that. And right now I was just, happy I got the win and it just felt right, It just came together, so. Did
you tell your coaches you would do that if you won?
No, it's what I just said. I feel that if you tell people that you're going to retire and you're going to go into that fight knowing that that's your last one, then I barely ever see someone win if they already know before the fight that they're going to retire. So that, it didn't make sense to me, and it just felt right, man. I won, and of course there's emotions after the fight, but it's not like I feel any different now, so.
Knowing that this could have been potentially your last fight, were you a little more nervous beforehand?
I'm always nervous. To be honest with you, there's always anxiety before a fight, but it didn't change anything. Once you're in the locker room, the only thing that matters is the fight. You're gonna fight. I'm nervous because I have to fight. I'm not nervous because I may never fight again. I'm just focused on not getting hurt and getting a great performance. So,
pretty amazing stat here, courtesy of our team at ESPN. I don't know if you know this, but on Saturday, you became the first fighter in modern UFC history to finish an opponent after a full first round and land 0 significant strikes in the fight. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, I heard about that. I'm not too happy with that one, of course.
What happened?
It was a hard first round, man. But man, he threw that punch, and in the fight, I didn't know what happened because he caught me with it. But looking back, it was a weird punch too, and he caught me off guard with it. I didn't throw my front kick, which I wanted to throw. I held that back, and he stepped in deep, which he normally doesn't really do. In his last fight, he didn't do it a single time. He just connected with it, and I was not fast enough, and he was too fast, and I was on my butt, and I woke up when he was in my guard, so I think from what I remember, I missed a good 5 to 10 seconds, but luckily my body kept going, so.
Yeah, a somewhat great moment afterwards when you were asked about the punch and that sequence, you had no recollection. A couple of days later, do you remember anything from that? Has it come back to you?
From the punch, no. The only thing I remember from the punch is seeing it for the first time on the big screen. At first, when I woke up on the ground, I was like, I didn't know what happened. If he just took me down, I was thinking, did we touch gloves, and did he immediately follow up after? Because the last thing I remember is touching gloves, So I missed a good 5 to 10 seconds, but. Luckily, my body kept going. I woke up and I turned it around. I felt him getting really tired in the first round. I was working my sweeps and all that, but he did a really good job keeping me pressed up against the fence. And for a tall guy, it's a lot harder to get back up to the fence because of leverage. And he just did a good job the first round. So at a certain point, I was like, all right, you just keep getting tired. And I just did enough to keep busy and keep him guessing so that he had to use power to keep me down. But I was not tired at all after that first round. I was just getting started, and that second round started. And I knew that, especially if I would get the takedown, get on top, I would finish the fight in the second round.
Speaking of gloves, I always wonder about this. When you put the gloves in the middle of the octagon, do you get them back afterwards?
Oh, yeah, I walked out of the octagon, And before I was out, I told my brother, you take the gloves before someone else gets them, because I won those. I never really care about my gloves, but I won these.
How is your heart right now? How like overall, how is it feeling?
It's good, man. I have to go to the hospital again on Thursday for my 6-month checkup. Everything is good. It's better than when they found it. Sometimes the heart gets a little bigger. They measure it and all that stuff, and then the next time it's a little smaller again. But it's steady. It's been really steady. But when I came back in 2014, I told myself, man, you should be doing this probably for like 5 years, not like 10, 15 years, because in the end, I have regurgitation back into the heart, and because of that, my heart, the aortic valve, wears down faster. Um, just all the stress I put on it. Week in, week out, training for these big fights. It takes a lot to get ready for these fights. You need to put a lot in it to get ready mentally and physically. And my heart is doing fine, but all that hard work is definitely, probably not the best thing for it. But I will always keep training. I just don't have to train hard twice a day anymore. So.
Was this something that was always kind of hanging over your head? Like, were you always worried that something very serious might happen in your fight or when you're training for a fight as a result of the heart?
I was never scared of like a heart attack or whatever, because I know the ins and outs about the heart now. I know that I just need to make sure I don't do certain things like heavy lifts and all that. It puts a lot of stress on the heart, and when I get a lot more regurg into the left chamber, then that left chamber will grow, and if that chamber keeps on growing, I can develop heart failure. But that's also the reason why they put me on heart meds, to lower the blood pressure and keep the pressure of that heart, so that my heart works really good. And my heart is actually really healthy, and I got an athlete's heart. If it wasn't for that, if I wouldn't be training, then normally, what's wrong with my heart is I got a bicuspid aortic valve. So an aortic valve is like a Mercedes sign. It's got 3 leaflets, and they open when blood gets pushed out, and then they close to keep the blood out when your heart's done beating. But 2 of mine are grown together, and because of that, there's an opening. Because I got an athlete's heart, that opening got bigger, and a lot more blood is flowing back into that chamber. So I miss a good percentage, and my heart has got to work harder to get all that blood out, especially when you're really tired. So I know the things that could happen. It wears down faster, and because of that, I just think this is a really good choice.
So you walk away at 31. Do you walk away with any regrets?
No, not really, man. Like I should not even have been able to do this if you really look at it with a heart like that. I fought the best guys in the world. I fought in the toughest sport in the world, in my opinion, and I did it at a deficit, with a big disadvantage. If you see these guys, especially nowadays, they get better and better. There's better athletes, and it is what it is. I had a great career, and regrets. I always wanted to fight for the UFC heavyweight title, but I gave it my everything. I came back from all this, and I tried again, and I came up short. But looking back, I came up short, and there's probably a reason why I came up short too.
What do you think that reason is?
Well, the heart is one of the reasons.
Okay.
Like if my heart was healthy, there was probably a lot more possibility for me to get further. A good example is of that is the Mark Hunt fight, where my heart was at its absolute worst. He knocked me out, but if you look at that fight, I was so incredibly tired, especially after the first round. Normally, the second and third rounds are my better rounds, but my heart was going like crazy. I was sick before that fight, and looking back, I shouldn't have fought that fight, but yeah, man, it was just so scary to come back from that. Like, I didn't really care about breaking the jaw, but just how tired I got into that fight and my body giving out on me. After almost, finishing him in the first round, because Herbine stepped in to take a closer look after I'd full mount and blasted away. But it was, the hardest part of coming back, of course, the heart was one part, but just knowing you have the heart and how tired you got in that fight and how it went, it was scary to fight again after that.
How about your favorite moment? The moment that maybe sticks out? Is there one?
There's too many, man. I've had so many cool fights. My first win in Cologne, Germany, with in that bloody war. I got a knockout win over Stipe, who's in my opinion one of the best heavyweights of all time. I got tons of cool finishes. I got to fight in my home country the first time the UFC came to Holland, and that didn't seem like a possibility ever. I fought my way back to fighting in a main event spot. I came close to getting on a 3-fight win streak again, and Stipe was the champion at that time, and the plan was to finish Alexander Volkov and then maybe fight for that belt. But in the end, I'm happy with what I was able to do. So.
Okay, so like I said, you're a very young guy. You're 31. What do you think that you will do now?
Man, there's just so much opportunity, but for a lot of fighters, they've been doing this for so long, and it's such a different and special profession than anything else. So I got to reinvent myself if I want to do something completely different, which is something I would like to do and be very successful in something that's completely different than what I've ever done. But I also love to teach. I really enjoy that, and that's something I definitely gonna pick up. I hopefully also gonna keep on working a little bit with the UFC here and there, stay involved with the UFC. I really do love the UFC. It's a big part of my life. I signed with the UFC when I was 20 years old. Been fighting for them for 10 years. So and there's just so much opportunity, and I'm excited for that. And I know it's gonna be hard sometimes, but I tell myself, look at what you build up, from nothing. It took a while to get to where you are now, but there's so much opportunity to do that again with something new, and that's just very exciting.
You know how it goes in combat sports. We hear of retirements all the time, and then guys come back a couple years later. Can you say definitively 100% this is it for you?
Yeah, I asked myself that question too, and we've seen so many guys come back because they get bored or they miss it or whatever, So I don't have the answer for that because I'm not at that point. I just made that decision on Saturday, and I feel really good about it right now. But also what Georges St. Pierre said in his interview, some rare possibility comes up or whatever, something that really excites you. But for now, I'm just really excited about not doing much for a while. I'm just going to be doing some construction in my new house and not worrying about the next fight or anything. I'm just going to be able to enjoy life without the tension of the next fight coming up. Nothing on my mind for a while.
Stefan, it has been a pleasure, my friend. It's been great to cover your career. You have always been great with the media. You've always been accessible to us. You've given us great moments in the cage, great moments out of the cage as well. And I remember when I first found out about your heart condition, I think there was a fear at the time that, A, you wouldn't be able to fight again, and that maybe this could be truly serious for your long-term health. And for you to stick around as long as you did afterwards and continue to win and look great and have moments like you did on Saturday, nothing short of amazing. So congratulations to you on an incredible career. I hope you're very proud of what you did in there. And I hope that we'll be seeing you around the sport for many years to come as well.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy with what I was able to do and come back, and not just, come back to show that you are, still able to fight, but I got some really, really nice wins after that, and it was definitely worth it coming back. So no regrets on anything, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for supporting me, all the positivity, and yeah, man, I'm gonna enjoy life, and I will be successful. So
I have no doubt of that. Thank you so much, Stefan. I appreciate it. Congratulations once again on a great career.
Thank you.
All right, there he is, the skyscraper, Stefan Struve. Great career, one of the all-time great heavyweights. Appreciate him stopping by, and again, congratulations to him. So another great story on Saturday unfolded in Dublin. James Gallagher returning from that heartbreaking loss to Ricky Bandejas back in the fall, and everyone was dancing on his grave. Everyone was laughing at him. Everyone said that he was overhyped. He showed up at the 3 Arena in Dublin, and he showed up in a big way. He picked up a big victory. Do we have James, young James, or is he gone? Oh, there he is. The Strabano
What's up,
himself.
Ariel?
How are you, James?
Okay. I'm great. How's things?
I'm doing great. Congratulations, my friend. It seems like you're still glowing. You're still on cloud 9 from Saturday.
I've been in cloud 9 since I've last was on your show, mate. So I've been just enjoying it, enjoying the process, and kept the ball rolling straight back into training, kept at it, and showed up on Saturday night and put on a great performance.
Yeah, you picked up the win over Stephen Graham, first round victory, great rear naked choke, and you note, that you've been on cloud 9 since the last time we talked. I noted when you walked out to the cage, I said, here comes James Gallagher, who's walking in there with the confidence of a man who has won his last 10 in a row. In fact, you're coming off your first pro loss. Can you tell us now, honestly, now that it's done, was there any part of you that was doubting yourself, down on yourself, questioning yourself, any part at all?
Before I walk into like all my fights, like Madison Square Garden, anywhere at all from my amateur days, I always get nervous on my way to the venue. Like it's just part of it. Like I always have a bit of nerves. This is the first fight I have never been nervous for.
Wow.
Like I wasn't nervous one bit. I said to myself, I'm going to go out here and have the time of my life and enjoy it. I sold out the arena. And that's what I did. I went out and I was expecting the nerves and I was expecting it to come and I didn't. And even my teammates were like a little concerned. They were like, why are you so like relaxed? Do you know what I mean? I was just having a giggle out the back and enjoying myself, and I enjoyed every moment of it. And I went out there calm, relaxed, focused. And I did exactly what I set out to do.
Do you think that you weren't nervous because the weight of being undefeated was off your shoulders? You didn't have to worry about that. You could just go out there and do your thing.
I just said to myself, why should I be nervous or like took back to do something that I love? Do you know what I mean? I've no need to be nervous. I've no need for that fear. Win, lose, draw. I'm doing something I love. Do you know what I mean? And I just keep reminding myself that I'm waking up every day and get to earn money through something I love. Do you know what I mean? Why should I be nervous for that?
Taking a step back, I said it was actually in the fall. It was late summer that you had the fight against Ricky Mendeas. It seems like it was not that long ago, but in fact it was several months ago. I remember talking to you on that Monday. You showed up there, man. I mean, it was inspiring to see someone at your age talk about a loss that you had just suffered a couple of days ago. The way in which you spoke about it. When you left, when you went back home, did you give yourself any time to grieve? Were you down at all, or was it right back on the horse?
Right back on the horse. I took all my mates away on holidays. Went and had a good trip away with all my mates. Came back, got straight back to the gym, and I feel like since that loss, I think it was about 6 months ago. I've had the best 6 months of my life. I think it was 7 or 8 months ago. That was in August. So I've been having the best few months of my life since then, and I've been just rolling with it, back training. Just focused on positivity, being successful, and that's all that's on my mind right now. I'm looking forward to getting back to the gym again, going again, and getting another fight lined up.
Why were those the best months of your life? Why do you think?
Because when you get knocked down like that, it's like you can go one way or the other. You can shell up. I could be lock myself up and be down about it. I can cry about it. I can moan about it and be a sore loser. Or else you can look at the positive and see where it went wrong, figure out how to fix it, and then just get on with it. And so why should I be down about it? Why shouldn't I not be happy? Why should I not? Do you know what I mean? I'm only 22 years old. I earn nice money through fighting, more than any other 22-year-old around these areas are earning, and I'm just living my life. Do you know what I mean? And I live a great life. So why shouldn't I have the best few months of my life? Why shouldn't I keep going and have that mindset? Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to see me lock myself in a room and be down about it and not be this person that I am. Everyone's trying to get me to be a way they want me to be, and I'm just being me. So why should I do what people want me to do when I can just be me and be happy and be successful?
By the way, did you get more tattoos? Am I crazy, or are you more inked up these days?
No.
Same.
Haven't had one. Yeah, haven't had one in a while. So I haven't. Actually, no, I got the one. Yeah, the one in I got my family coat of arms. Yeah, on my belly.
Okay, so
I got my family crest. Yeah, that's a new one since the last fight. Actually, I forgot about that.
Okay, there you go. See, I'm very astute. I'm observant. I like to pay attention to these things, James. And so a lot of people are saying, like, I was like, the Strabanimal is back. Look at him back. Oh, he fight a Ken. Who is this guy? He looks like someone they plucked up. So now here come the haters once again. You've heard this, right? Yeah,
of course, mate. Get used to it. And this is going to be my whole career now. So it is. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. It's so funny that the happier and successful that I be, the more jealous, the more bitter, the more angrier that these people be. And I'm just sitting back here going, I kind of feel sorry for them because, like, now I'm just going, like, do you know what I mean? I'm going away next week and I'm living good. And these people are so annoyed at how I am, at what I'm doing, and they want, since I'm not being the way they want me to be, they're getting annoyed about it. Do you know what I mean? But why can't I just be myself? They're getting annoyed at me being me, and then they're trying to say that I'm not being me. Do you know what I mean? It's just weird. I don't get it. They want me to be how they want me to be, and it's fucked up, to be honest, but I get a good laugh out of it.
To the best of my knowledge, you were at that magical night in Dublin back in July of 2014, the Conor Brandao fight. I think you walked out with Paddy Houlihan, right?
That's where I met you at the weigh-ins.
That's right. We met at the weigh-ins. Young James Gallagher. Yes, you were like 12 years old, right?
Yeah, so I wasn't. Do you remember? I was a bit older, but do you not remember you came on then and I told you I'd be on your show?
Yes, you did.
And you reminded me. Yes. You reminded me. You're like, it was like 2 years ago to that day or something. You reminded. I was like, I said to you at the weigh-ins, I'm going to be on your show someday. And then the first time that I was on your show was 2 years ago to that exact date.
Wow,
that I was on.
That is insane. Yes, I remember, and I remember John Kavanaugh saying that you were the future and all that stuff. I'm just curious, how did that night? Because I was talking to some people. PT Carroll was telling me, who's been at both shows, a fixture of the Irish MMA media scene, who's saying like this was the first night since that night that it felt like it felt like a true special evening, right? For you, obviously,
a true Jimmy show. A true Jimmy show.
That's
right.
That's
what it was.
Did it feel the same? Did it feel better? I mean, obviously you're a part of it. You're the main event this time. But what was it like just being sort of around it 5 years ago almost, and now just being the Jimmy show? Everyone's there for you almost.
It was humbling. So it was a humbling experience. That's what will humble me. When I see my own people coming out and giving me that support, that humbles me. So it does that. People the last time going saying that getting a defeat will humble me. That's absolutely madness that someone can have that mindset. I don't know how that people can have that mindset that defeat will humble you. To me, that's absolutely mind blowing. What humbles me is people showing me their love and support. That humbles me. That makes me realize, wow, people are seeing what I'm doing and supporting me, spending their hard-earned money to buy tickets to come out and watch me. That humbles me. That fills me with pride and makes me humble and makes me realize that I am just like one of these people.
I understand something happened with your mother afterwards. What happened there? Did they touch your mom? What's going on with this kid? No respect?
So the head of Mike Hogan,
yeah,
is an absolute G. He's the runs the Bellator scene. Like he's an absolute. My hat goes off to Mike. He does so much for me. But he told my mother to enter the cage, and my mother had the credentials. She had a staff pass on her. She was allowed into the cage. She had the correct everything to be in there. As I was hugging her, you can see in the video, the guy comes over and puts his hands on my mother.
Oh,
I don't give a shit who the fuck you are. You will not put your hands on my mother. If you want her to leave, you can ask, and it will happen. But when you touch my mother from behind, he's lucky I didn't knock him out. So it isn't. But I told him, get your hands off my mother, and he did it and put his hands up. And I was like, do not touch her. And that was fine. Then the other guy confirmed that she should be there, and it was all cool after that. But I don't give a shit who you are. You'll not put your hands on my mother when you're there. That's my. You know what I mean? I love my mother to bits, and you won't do that.
Right. Especially when she's about to celebrate her birthday, right? I mean, that's just
exactly. And her birthday's tomorrow.
Yes.
And I just won the main event in Dublin. It was clear that it was my mother. Like you just don't do that. So you don't. And I was took back by it, and I told him, "Get your fucking hands off my mother," and he listened, and it was all cool.
How did you guys celebrate? Because you said you were going out to celebrate afterwards. What'd you guys do?
I went, had a good night out, so I did, met up with all my mates, and I've been away, so for 8 weeks, I didn't see my mother in 8 weeks, so we went backstage and popped a bottle of champagne, and I popped it and handed it straight to my mother, and we had a good night.
I loved what you said in the post-fight interview. I mean, it really gave me chills about everyone just, saying the worst things in the world to you and dancing on your grave and celebrating your demise, and you didn't care. And I mean, like, everything you say is very consistent with what you said then, is very consistent with what you said in August. There is so much that we can learn from someone who's 22 years old. And I don't care if people say, "Oh, you're kissing it." It's the truth. I wish that I had that in me. Like, I don't possess what you possess. I think very few people possess what you possess. I have no idea how you could possibly not let a moment like that, what happened to you against Ricky, affect you. It is mind-boggling to me. It truly is. You have a gift. It's truly that.
Did you see how much I improved on my mindset? How cool I walked out?
Yeah.
I handled 8,700 people of my home country fans came out. I seen veterans crumble under that alone. Under that alone, just that pressure of being in a home show, I've seen them crumble. When you come off the biggest loss of one of the biggest losses in MMA, I'll put it down. The whole MMA world ridiculed me. They counted me out. They stood on me when I was down. They called me they laughed at me. Had people that I would kind of not look up to, but like admire for, they're a lot higher up in the game than me. They're veteran in this game. I'm only a young fella in the game, so there's a lot of people higher up who was laughing at me. They were counting me out. And I was just looking at it going, wow, that's the kind of world we live in now. You know what I mean? That's them people, or the people higher up, are laughing at me, and I was going, when I get to their age, I'm going to be a lot higher up than they are, and I'm going to set an example of the way you should be.
I know that you said you wanted to fight Ricky Bandejas, an immediate rematch. That's what you were hoping for this card. It didn't happen. Yeah. So what do you want now? He's coming off a loss now. Would you like to run that one back? What are you thinking?
I don't give a shit. I don't care anymore, Ariel. I just focus on me. Stick anyone in front of me. Stick Ricky. Stick the champion. I do not care. Stick whoever the fuck they want in front of me, and I'm there. I'm showing up the way I did on Saturday night. So and that's all I care about. I'll show up, I'll smile, and I'll go in there and beat who's in front of me. Stick Ricky in if they want. I don't really. It's up to them. So it is. It's really up to Bellator. I'm going to fight whoever it is, and I'm just focused on me. And I feel like that's the best way. The best way I can conduct it.
How soon do you want to come back?
Maybe May. I'd like to fight May.
Okay.
So I would. Yeah. So get whoever they want. Get whoever the fuck they want, and I'm there. I'm showing up. I want to test myself. So I want to test myself. I want to test my skills, and then competition is the truest way to test your skills, and that's exactly what I want to do. So I don't really care who's in front of me. I'm going to show up, I'm going to be ready, and I'll beat them.
And it's my understanding that you're interested, at least, I guess we can put it as interested in that featherweight tournament that's coming out later this year. Is that accurate?
100%. So it is. Show me the money, and I'm there. Show me the money, and I'm there, but I'm going to go and sit down with my team. Maybe at the end, I'm going away next week, so at the end of next week when I come back, I'm going to sit down with my team, and we'll discuss it and maybe see what the options are bantamweight and see what the options are featherweight, and we'll go from there. So it is. We'll speak to Bellator and see what we can come up with.
Okay. And by the way, conspicuous by his absence, it seemed like he was the only one not there, was Conor McGregor. I know he's in the States right now. Did you hear from Conor after the fight?
Of course I did. So I did. He's the one that has opened up the opportunity for us to be able to do what happened on Saturday night. If it was not for him, we wouldn't be able to. That wouldn't be the same magnitude as the way it was. So it wasn't. He's paved the way for us young fighters, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
What did he say to you?
Handled it like a world champion.
Yes, you did, and you looked like one too. By the way, I like that robe that you came out in.
Exactly. Yes. Who's done that before in MMA?
That's the first time you've used that, right?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
It's going to be my new thing. So it is. But here, did you see the crowd, mate? The roof blew off the place when I came out. It was absolutely madness. I've never experienced nothing like that before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I took a walk up the city that day, and like, I had to like turn around nearly and go back to my hotel. There was too many like people.
Wow.
It was madness. I've never like I'm just 22. You know what I mean? Floating around doing my thing, and I felt like a celebrity.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That superstar. And that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a superstar.
I mean, I think you're well on your way. Are you almost surprised that it's happening this soon? Like that you're that big of a deal in Dublin?
I'm not surprised. I'm took back by it, but I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way I want it. It's the way I should be. It's the way I deserve it. That's for all my hard work. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to be the biggest superstar in MMA.
I look forward to that. Welcome back, Jimmy. I know you would say that
Thank
perhaps
you
you
very
never
much.
left, but it was good to see you back.
No, so I didn't leave at all. That was the real me. So it was coming out there on Saturday night. You seen me, I walked out in Madison Square Garden, handled it like a true champ. All that pressure in front of the Madison Square Garden crowd. I walked out into the 3 Arena in front of 8,700 Irish fans. Place sold out. Main event, 22 years old. There's veterans crumble underneath that. Not me. I don't crumble underneath that. You can stand on me when I'm down, and I'll still show up and come back, because that's exactly what happened.
Incredible stuff. Congratulations, James. What a moment. And happy birthday to your mother, who's celebrating tomorrow.
Yeah,
what a great
celebrate
gift.
it tomorrow. Yeah. I'm looking forward to I'm on my way. I'm just actually driving up north. So I'm at the minute from Dublin. So I'm driving on my way back up north up home, and I'm looking forward to go and spend the night tomorrow night with my mother and take her out for dinner and do something nice.
Well, it is well deserved. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Again, congrats.
Thank you very much, Ariel. It's an honor to be on, as always. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. There he is, the Strabanimal himself,
Cheers,
James
mate.
Gallagher. 7 wins by submission now. Unbelievable stuff on Saturday. And, you know, I was talking to some people on Twitter afterwards. They were saying, oh, he fought a Ken. He fought a nobody. There's nothing wrong with that, my friends. In fact, that's the one thing that they probably should learn in our sport from the boxing counterparts. It's okay to get someone back on track. It's okay to build someone back up. He may not feel like he needs to be built back up, but that's all right. It's all right to get a little, you know, a tune-up fight, if you will. Showcase fight in front of his people. Guess what? 8,000 plus in Dublin didn't seem to mind. They didn't seem to mind. They wanted to see him win. They gave him a victory. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying it was fixed, but it's a favorable matchup. I have no problem with that. Guy coming off a loss at that age, devastating loss. I have no problem with that. James Gallagher is back. Okay. Last Sunday, my friends, was the UFC in Phoenix event, and Cynthia Calvillo won in one of the featured fights against Courtney Casey. And afterwards, she did something that very few people are doing these days in this sport. What did she do? She called out Tatiana Suarez. And it seems like no one is calling out Tatiana Suarez. In fact, it seems like no one wants to fight Tatiana Suarez. And that got me thinking, where is Tatiana Suarez? Well, we have located her. There she is. We haven't seen her in action in several months, but she is on the program. It's great to have her back on. Tatiana, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where have you been?
Trading.
Just training.
Yeah, just trading.
Why haven't you fought since September? Because to the best of my knowledge, we last saw you, of course, at UFC 228 in Dallas, correct? And we have not seen you since, and your name doesn't seem to come up a lot. You're not injured, right? You're good to go?
Nope, not injured. Just training and waiting for the right matchup.
Okay. Does it seem like the UFC is having a hard time finding you? Not even the right matchup, any matchup.
Yeah, it's been difficult.
Okay.
So I think they're just waiting for a couple of fights because they're trying to see like how the division's going to play out. Because a lot of people, like a couple people left. Some people were taking time off. Some people had fights. So I think they're just trying to see like how the whole division was going to match up before they matched me up. Because I'm number 3 right now. So I think they're just trying to see where I'm, how the rest of the division plays out. I know that Joanna took some time off, and I know she's back. So that's something I'm also interested in, something like that. And then, also, the number 3 spot right now is currently we're sharing. So, that would be nice too to get that number 3 spot and,
Okay, so first off, when you say that they're having some trouble, what do you mean by that? Have they actually gone out to people and offered them fights against you and they've turned it down?
Yes, there has been a few.
Okay,
So they've asked
a few.
I don't know. Yep, I don't know. I don't know. That's what they're telling me.
Right.
But I'm just taking their word for it.
Would you have liked to return earlier?
Yeah, of course. I was training literally I had my fight on, I think it was Saturday. I traveled on Sunday, and then Monday I was back in the gym. So it would have been nice to get another fight in before, and then get the title shot or whatever after Andrade and Rose. But it didn't work out that way. But maybe I'll work out a little differently. But I know the title shot's coming soon, so I'm just being patient and getting better every day.
What was your reaction when you heard Cynthia Calvillo call you out?
You know my reaction.
I don't know.
You asked me.
Well, I asked you privately, but I'm not going to put that's a off the record conversation. This is for the world to hear.
Ooh, off the record.
Well, I try to respect that.
No, I didn't really have a reaction to it. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's she gave me a compliment. I was like, that's nice, And but other than that, I wasn't really okay, that's a matchup I really I'm pushing for, because it really doesn't make sense for me. That doesn't scream if I get that win, it really doesn't scream hey, give her the title shot next. It's just kind of another win. So for me, I'm waiting for that matchup that will scream hey, give Tatiana that title shot, and I think that is either, Joanna or Nina. And, so that's what I'm waiting for. And you know what, I want to beat, that's what, a lot of people are not oh, I want to go fight Joanna, but I do, she's, a great fighter. A lot of people, she's very, she's recognized, she's defended her title multiple times. So a win like that would definitely, get me a title shot, I think. And then also, if I ended up fighting Nina, I think that would be a good fight, because it would also be I'm number 3 now for sure, and no one else is at the top. And then I'd probably fight the winner, and then of whoever wins the fight, and then I would end up maybe fighting Joanna for a defense or something, once I win that title.
Okay, wow. So I noticed that you're saying Joanna's name a lot here. So it seems like she's very much on your mind. So we can, I guess, definitively say, Cynthia, thanks for asking, but we're not interested right now. Appreciate it. Very nice, but not at the moment.
Yeah. I just think right now it's not the matchup for me. Eventually, I think she'll, climb the rankings, and maybe once I have my title, I'll be fighting her, for a defense as well, but I just don't think at this moment that really puts me in a position to get a title shot, It's I want a title shot next. I don't want to just be a number 11 or 12.
Right.
And then be okay, now I get a title. That doesn't really kind of make sense to me. I think I need to beat someone up there to get that title shot, to deserve that title shot, because I beat number 5. Before that, I beat number 9. And so I've climbed the rankings, and now I want to be I want to secure my spot as up there, you know what I mean? So I want that title next. So after this next fight, I know I need to fight one more time. I don't, and you know what? I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me that I have to earn, my title shot. I'm not give me the title shot now. I'm I'll fight, I'll fight again. So
it feels, at least to me, like you are one fight away from fighting for the belt. That's the way it feels.
Right.
Do you feel the same way?
Yep.
Okay.
That's why I want this. That's why I want this high, this high ranked opponent to really secure that. And everybody knows that when I go and fight for that title, I deserve that title shot. It's not I beat just number 14 or 15 or 12 or 11. I want to beat the best of the best at the top.
And so if that's the line of thinking, just based off of how the UFC has done this in the past, it feels like Joanna probably wouldn't be your next opponent, only because let's say Rose wins on May 11th and then she beats you, who's a top contender. They're not going to give Joanna another crack at Rose, who's, she's already lost to her twice. So it feels, if I'm just doing the math correctly here, it feels like you versus Nina is the fight that makes the most sense, because the winner is a fresh matchup for Rose, the champion, right?
Yeah, I think, I think that's the match to make. I really do. I think that's the match to make, but I don't really know where she's at. I don't know what she's doing. So I'm waiting for that. But like I said, so it really doesn't matter to me. I just want to beat number two, number three. I want to beat them, because that's, to me, that's securing my, my shot. So, but I think the fight to make is Nina. But I think a lot of people want to see me fight Joanna, because she's so, she's so well known, she's so
Right.
good, and I think that's something that they want to see. But I don't know if that's something that the UFC wants to do. But I'm good with either fight. I'm prepared. I'm getting, this is, the thing about not fighting is, yeah, you don't get to fight, you don't get paid, but I'm getting better. And so this is only, for me, I'm like, you know what, like, I'm not fighting, but once I get to that title, I know I'm going to be 100% ready, and I'm just getting better and better, and I'm just running away, getting better as a mixed martial artist. And that, to me, is scary. Everybody's like, Tatiana is such a great wrestler, this and that, but they haven't really even seen like 1% of what I can do. They've only seen such a small part, because no one's really challenged me, so the more I fight, the more you guys will see of me. So people are always like, why don't you stand, this and that? And I'm like, why? No one's stopping my takedowns,
Yeah.
So,
No, of course.
I'm saving my head from multiple wars, and I'm prolonging my career. So,
Perfect world. When do you want to fight? If it was up to you.
if maybe around May,
Okay.
May. If not, International Fight Week.
That's a big one.
No, everybody loves doing that. I'm if I have to wait longer, that's fine. I don't think that's gonna happen though, because Rose and uh what's sorry, I was speaking
Andrade.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I know her mostly by her like last name, Andrade. Yeah. And I know they're fighting. So hopefully, I can get that fight after.
Who do you think wins in that fight?
Um, I think Rose is so lanky, I think she can pull it off. She has the reach. I mean, I know Jessica has the power, but I just think that Rose has that reach, and she's really good, and she has good footwork, and she has good feints, and I think she's really well rounded as well. She can go to the ground and be fine. She has good ground and pound. You know, if I have to fight her, like, I'm gonna be so excited. I really respect her as a martial artist. She's really great. So, if I have to fight either one of them, I'd be, really, really excited, just because they're really good, and I know it's a challenge for me.
What is it like? Because even I'm looking at the comments now as we're doing this interview, and everyone's like, oh, she's going to be champion by the end of the year. She's going to be champion by this time next year. What is it like? And I'm sure you hear that as well, to have everyone tell you, oh, it's inevitable. You're going to be like, it's going to be a piece of cake. Does that affect you, like, to not believe that? Because you still want to be hungry. You still want to have that killer instinct. You still need to go out there and win fights. Is that something that plays tricks on your minds when you have everyone tell you that it's essentially a formality that you're going to be a champion?
No.
No?
I get this. I get she's gonna be champ. I get she's gonna get her ass whooped. Like,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. So like, I get different things. So, it really doesn't bother me. I'm like, the hunger is just always gonna be within me. I love pushing myself. I think that, like, people are like, what fuels you? What's your inspiration? And I can't say there's like one thing that, like, I just love it. I love it. Like, there's no other feeling. I love pushing myself, and people are like, you like training? I'm like, I love training. Yeah, my body hurts. But I actually love it. I love everything about the sport. I love fight week. I don't really like say that I would like love the weight cut, but I think it's something that, like, I think needs to happen. I think it prepares me for war. So I love everything about the sport, and you know, I don't really need like one thing that's like, some people have their family as inspiration or whatever it is. Like mine is just because I love it so much and I love the challenge and I love the challenges it presents me every single day. Like it presents me with a new challenge every day. And who doesn't want to be challenged every day, you know?
Right.
I love it. So it's something that really fuels me.
Well, keep doing your thing. And in particular, I must say, very underrated follow on Instagram you are, because you do this thing. And I will admit, I've mentioned this to you off the record as well. But sometimes like you go on these like 3-hour marathons where you watch these random UFC fights, like the most random UFC fights, and you chronicle it. And it's like some of them are some of the worst fights in UFC. I don't even know how you choose these, why you choose these, but you chronicle it, and it's very fun. It's a good story. Like it's a good Instagram story. I don't know what inspires you to do this. I'm not quite sure, but keep doing it because at least one person is very entertained by it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I just love MMA. Yeah. I love, like, I don't know. It's really cool. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can learn something from, watching an old like Pride fight or an old UFC fight. I think you can learn something from everybody. I think, like, I watch all the fights. I don't just watch, the main card, or I watch the fight prelims. I watch the entire card just because I want to learn something from everybody. And I think it's, I want to grow as a martial artist. I know some people are like, oh, I don't watch fighting at all. I'm like, what? That's really weird. I'm like, I don't know. That's just, I don't know. It's very like, I don't know. I can't even imagine not watching it. I think I think watching it also inspires you. And I think it also, is like, oh, I want to be able to do that, and then you think like, what can make me do that? And then you're like, oh, I got to go to the gym and, try it out, or, you know what I mean? So, or you'll see somebody with like amazing cardio, you're like, man, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to just like put the pressure on for 5 rounds and not ever get tired. And like, what, I got to go back to the gym and like make it happen, So, I think it's necessary for the sport. It pushes you.
Appreciate it very much, Tatiana. Great to catch up with you. I appreciate you doing this. And please keep us posted on the record, off the record, on your next fight. A lot of people are wondering and looking forward to seeing you back in there. So keep us posted on when you get that call.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, there she is, Tatiana Suarez, one of 6 female fighters to start their UFC career, a perfect 4-0. 3 of those 6 were or became UFC champions. Ronda Rousey, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and Chris Cyborg are the champions. She landed 143 significant ground strikes in 4 UFC fights, second most in UFC history in her first 4 appearances. Alexander Volkanovski is number 1 at 146. 18 takedowns in 4 UFC fights. Only Claudia Gadelha had more, 20 by a female fighter in her first 4 UFC fights. And there you see the strawweight rankings. Jessica Andrade, the number 1 ranked in the division. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, number 2. Tatiana Suarez, number 3. We just spoke to her. And there's Nina Ansaroff, tied with her, and Claudia Gadelha, number 5. So it seems to me like the choice that makes the most sense is Suarez Ansaroff. Hopefully we get to see that one soon. Number 1 contender fight at 115 pounds. And then the winner faces the winner of Andrade, Rose Namajunas, which goes down on May 11th in Rio. They've moved it from Curitiba to Rio. All right. Now, how about this? Big announcement, surprise in-studio guests. Let's make the reveal. Oh, wow. I recognize you guys.
Hello, hello.
Kayla Harrison,
That's
2-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yes, yeah, last time I checked, yeah.
Peter Murray,
Great to be
CEO of the Professional Fighters League. This is interesting, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
This is very exciting. So you just kind of showed up, which is kind of weird. Like you came down, it's like an old pro wrestling segment, right? Where you just kind of appear, like
Just
stand.
happened to be in Bristol.
Yes,
Magic.
this is amazing. No one wants to hear from me, so I will turn the microphones to you guys. Peter, I think you have an announcement to make.
I do, Ariel. Thank you again for having Kayla and I on. It's with great pleasure to announce that the new home of the PFL will be ESPN. So
Wow.
we're part of the ESPN family, and we couldn't be more excited.
Wow. Kayla's very excited.
Yeah.
Perhaps most. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
gigantic. Tell us more.
Sure. Well, all of our events in 2019, our regular season, our playoffs, and our championship will be live on ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, as well as ESPN Plus. In addition, we have shoulder programming year-round for fans that will also distribute across ESPN's platforms.
Wow. This is gigantic for so many reasons. First of all, congratulations to you, the entire team at PFL, you, the fighters. This is a very big deal. It's the worldwide leader in sports. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I work here, but it is the #1 sports network in the world. That is massive. But for me, as an MMA fan, to have another organization here at ESPN, and not just the UFC, because that's a big deal in its own right, but to have now 2 organizations, to me, signals the fact that ESPN is the worldwide leader in MMA as well, and their commitment to the sport is huge.
Not just MMA, but I think combat sports.
Yeah.
Now they're showing a lot more combat sports, and competition is healthy. I think this is going to be great for fans, great for fighters. I think it's a new era of MMA, that it's like the fastest growing sport, and I feel like the fans are the most rabid fans there are, so they're going to get their fill on ESPN.
Yeah, and to that end, I think it's indicative of it's the fastest growing sport in the world. This fan has interest to consume more live quality content, and we're happy to provide that on a different night, on Thursday nights. So PFL will own Thursday nights this spring, starting in May. All of our regular season events will be on Thursday nights. So a great complement to the combat portfolio. And to fulfill that need of these rabid fans.
More MMA all the time.
What was your reaction when you found out?
Well, first of all, let's just talk about you.
Oh.
You sneaky little devil, you.
Okay.
You tweeted me out, or not tweeted me, you texted me after my fight in December on New Year's Eve, and you were like, oh, congrats. And I got a little snarky with you. I was kind of like, thanks, Ariel. Maybe next time you won't have your awards show at the same time.
Yes, because we went head-to-head. Yes, I'm sorry about that.
And I was like, ugh. And you said something you were like, don't worry, I think we'll be on the same schedule soon or something. And I had no idea.
Oh, my bad.
No one told me, by the way.
Okay.
No one told me until like 2 days ago.
We knew she was a risk, Ariel.
Okay, you didn't want to leave.
I have a big mouth.
Excited.
I respect that. Thank you.
So I was like, what does that mean? Like, what is this? And then I was like, and then we had a conference call about me coming up here. And I said, guys, they were like, oh, we need you on the show. We're going to break the news. And I'm like, hey, hello, can someone tell me what news we're breaking?
Wow.
So since then, I've been on cloud 9, and I've literally had to do everything. I was like almost not going to go to practice because, I was going to tell everyone at ATT, guess what, suckers?
Yes. I was so nervous about this because, of course, I'd heard about it. And that's why I said, so I'm happy you said that because I think a lot of people might not believe me when I say I've
Ariel
known.
can keep a secret, ladies
I can
and gentlemen.
keep a secret, yes.
Right.
I don't know if he can keep a lot of secrets at once, but
that's
he can keep
my thing.
Pretty well.
I built my whole career on keeping secrets.
Did
That's how you become a good journalist. Yes. What are you trying to say, Kayla? What are you implying?
Nothing. You always have breaking news. That's all.
Well, yes. Well, when it's appropriate, but in this case, I wanted to do it on the show. It was a very big deal for the show to do it here. But I've heard about this for quite some time, and at first I was like, wow. 2 MMA organizations on ESPN. It almost seemed too good to be true. And I think for MMA fans now with ESPN Plus, and at first they're like, $4.99 should I pay? Now you're going to get prelims on, and you said May 9th is the first event.
Yep.
And then a lot of the majority of the main cards will be on television, on linear television, ESPN2.
Every single event.
Wow.
On linear combined with ESPN Deportes.
Yes.
As well as ESPN Plus.
Okay, we have a nice little video package.
Great.
To tell the fans more about this. So let us
Show me
play
more.
this. Yes.
I'm a fan.
Play it, Corporate Jake. Play it.
This May, the PFL is about to make history on ESPN.
Strap it on, bro!
The only championship league in MMA. 6 titles, $6 million on one historic championship night, and a breakthrough format reimagining the sport. Plus, the most exciting new talent in all of women's combat sports, Kayla Harrison, will lead a first-ever 155-pound division.
She is golden again!
More intensity, more action.
We take a look at Cageonomics. That punch was 21.6.
In the most dynamic and only season-based format in combat sports.
What a turn of events!
Coming this May, you will experience the thunder that is
Oh my goodness!
the Professional Fighters League on ESPN.
How exciting is this? So there's more information. Yes, the worldwide leader in mixed martial arts, ESPN, PFL, sign a 2-year deal through 2020. ESPN and ESPN Plus become the exclusive media home of the Professional Fighters League here in the United States. All 10 PFL events will air live across ESPN2, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN Plus. Regular season begins May 9th. That's the first event. May to August, Thursday nights, playoffs, October, ESPN2 and ESPN Plus, and then the PFL Championship once again on New Year's Eve on ESPN2 and ESPN Deportes. That's all the info, right?
You got it. Absolutely.
Nailed it.
So exciting.
Well, I should mention you have your Canadian flag there.
Yes.
We also have a partnership with TSN. Through ESPN, so will it be exclusive on TSN?
Wow.
In Canada.
That is big.
Both linear and digital.
Live as well?
That's right. Every event.
Oh my gosh, you guys making big moves. Well done. So I think the fans may not know a lot about you, Peter, because in the past we've seen the likes of Carlos Silva, who's no longer with the company, and Ray Sefo, president of the company, do a lot of the interviews. But now here you are. Is this an unveiling for you as well? Are you going to be more in front of the camera these days?
The new face.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I run the business.
Okay.
And so I couldn't be happier to be here with a great teammate and athlete like Kayla, and we have a terrific team at the PFL. But I've been involved for over a year now. Took the helm as CEO last January. I spent my entire career in sports. I was with the National Football League for over 13 years, helping to build that brand and lead that business. I spent a number of years at Under Armour, leading global sports marketing, brand marketing, and running a number of business categories. And I feel everything I've done in my career has really led me to this opportunity, the opportunity to build a sports league in a global sport, being MMA, the fastest growing sport in the world, and to build it from the ground up, but starting with the fighters and really talking to those stakeholders and addressing some of their needs and giving them an opportunity to compete on a major stage and with what we believe is a game-changing format. That works in other sports. It works in the NFL, it works in the NBA, Major League Baseball. We were told it wouldn't work in this sport. So our team, I give credit to Ray Sefo, our entire fighter operations team, because last year we validated the format.
It works.
We started to build that audience. Our championship reached over 5 million people around the world. And we were only 7 months old. We're only 9 months old today, and here I am sitting with you.
Wow.
And we're on the worldwide leader in sports. So there's no better time to be in the live sports business, and there's no better time to deliver an innovative product in MMA. And we lead with innovation, again, starting with the athlete, but then thinking about every detail that goes into the presentation and the fan experience. So what fans can expect on ESPN from the PFL is not only an amazing ride, a regular season of playoffs and a championship, but also storytelling and finally technology. So we live in a world, where technology is all around us. And in this sport, we feel there hasn't been much innovation. There's been a lot of innovation over the last decade, over the last few years in many other sports. But bring it back to the competition and the athlete, where we're going to be providing first and foremost tools for athletes.
Okay.
So information that athletes can measure miles per hour in punches, in kick speed, impact, caloric burn, heart rate. And why those are tools for athletes, it's going to help Kayla and the rest of our roster prepare for upcoming fights, because they're going to know the data, the analytics for the other athletes that they'll be competing against. And for fans, it really gives another dimension to the sport. It provides context to what great world-class athletes, MMA athletes are. And we're proud of the fighters that we have fighting for us. And year over year, our roster is going to get better and better. Today, we have elite athletes such as Kayla and others. But as the sport grows, there's absolutely room for another leader in the sport.
So Kayla, for you, this is year 2 of your pro MMA career. You went 3-0 last year. It was good. You were just sort of doing those one-off fights.
Yep.
But this year, you're part of the tournament.
I am.
155.
155. First ever women's 155 tournament.
Have we? Is it going to be 8 women in that tournament?
We'll have 72 athletes.
Okay.
12 athletes in each of the 6 weight classes, including our women's 155.
Have we found 11 other lightweight females?
We're going to be, well, I don't actually know. Because, again,
well, let's be honest. This is the Kayla Harrison division, okay? Until someone else says so. You're the champ already going into this in my mind.
Thank you very much, Ariel. I appreciate that. No, they haven't released the names to me or to anyone yet, but I know that Ray's working on it. I know they're going to be making announcements really soon. And I expect some good, healthy competition for my title.
Mm-hmm. And so do you know when your first fight will be?
May.
Okay. Will it be on that first show?
We're still working through those details, and we'll make another announcement.
Okay. You can come back on the show if you want.
Absolutely. We'll have Ray here.
Home. Okay.
We'll have Ray here. And once again, he's working on finalizing the roster. And, you know, we're going to provide fans access. So we're calling it the selection, making the 2019 roster.
Oh.
And so starting next week, so more to come, Ray will be revealing who's making it. We'll do this in 3 groups over 6 weeks.
This is breaking news. I have been selected.
Okay,
so
yes.
Kayla's in.
Okay, so it's going to be like a thing where we're going to be revealing who's...
That's correct.
Oh,
over a 6-week period starting next week. It's called Making the Cut, the PFL 2019 roster. And we're storytellers. We'll provide access into decision-making process, context about the athletes. Ray will really lead that. We'll be making announcements as well as digital, social-related content, and so more to come. And then it actually culminates with a selection show right here on ESPN.
Wow. And so the Making the Cut programming, where does that air?
That'll air on ESPN.
Okay.
ESPN2, Deportes, as well as ESPN+.
Oh, this is great. It's like sort of like a soccer thing when they announce who's going to be playing in the Champions League and all that.
Like a sport, you know?
Yeah, like a real sport. Wow. We're actually all grown up here. This is great. And again, I can't, like, it's somewhat unprecedented. I mean, in the past, Access TV has had multiple organizations, but for, you know, the UFC to sort of share the spotlight at ESPN, I think it's huge for you guys. I think it's big for the UFC. I mean, it just really signals the fact that ESPN, who, let's be honest, a year ago today, 2 months ago, had never aired a single live MMA event. Now they're the home to, you know, 2 of the biggest organizations in the world. It's kind of mind-blowing to me, if I'm being honest. You know what I mean? Like, I never even thought that this would happen, let alone like someone like me working at ESPN, let alone them being home to 2 organizations.
Right. Well, change is happening so fast, and I think, again, the sport is just exploding. You know, it's just evolving exponentially inside the cage, outside the cage, fans, you know, there's a real thirst for it, and ESPN is, I think, very smart to jump on top of that.
And this will be an Olympic sport. We all know that. Kayla is a 2-time gold medalist, and we believe the PFL format is actually the format the IOC will adopt.
Okay, wow. As you mentioned, you have an extensive background in the world of sports. I think 13 years at the NFL.
That's right.
Worked at Under Armour, as you said as well. What drew you to MMA? Like, just as, you know, someone who's been in the sports world for a while. This is kind of a crazy sport that we're in here. Why this sport?
I think it's great. It's exciting. Starting with the athletes. There's nothing more intense in sport when when that cage door closes and that bell rings and these athletes put it on the line, and you juxtapose the nature of the competition, but these athletes have so much respect, A, for the sport, and B, for all the competitors and their opponents. So it was that, but also while at Under Armour, I had the opportunity to work with GSP. He was an Under Armour athlete. I've always been a fight fan, boxing, and I've been sort of, in the background as a fan and watching the growth of MMA as it continues to be not only established but mainstream.
Kayla, last time I spoke to you, you talked about your desire to be the first one to beat Chris Cyborg. Since then, she has lost.
Yes, she has, in spectacular fashion.
Yes, to a teammate of yours.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I was surprised. I train with Amanda. I know how hard she hits. I know, she has this. One thing that I strive for and why I enjoy working with her so much is her confidence. She has this unbreakable confidence in herself, and I think for so long, so many people sort of looked at Cyborg as this just unbreakable person or this unbeatable cyborg. Literally that's her nickname, Cyborg. They don't even call her real name.
Right.
And I wasn't surprised. I was really it was bittersweet. I'm so happy for Amanda because she is now easily the greatest female fighter of all time, but probably close to being one of the greats. She's an amazing athlete. She's an amazing person. She's a huge inspiration to me. But I do feel like my my villain has been taken a little bit. You know, it's not like I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to fight you now, Amanda. Like, it's tough. You know, we train together. I like training with her. But, you know, for me, again, this is why the PFL is so great, because it's not necessarily about, okay, let's make this big, huge super fight. I'm going to fight in a division. I'm going to have to prove myself over multiple fights, multiple times to be champion. And now I'm just chasing legacy. You know, I'm not chasing anyone or anything. I just want to go down as one of the greats.
So you don't want that fight anymore? It doesn't interest you?
Well, and I'm not saying, I mean, let's not be crazy,
right.
obviously.
But it's not the same.
No, I mean, I was like really depressed.
Really?
A little, not.
It was deflating.
It was a little bit, just because you get pumped up. You get this, idea in your mind of like, it's like the Olympics. You know, you say to yourself, I'm going to be Olympic champion. I'm going to be Olympic champion. And you say to yourself, I'm going to take down this Goliath. You know, I'm going to take her down. And then it's done. So now you have to go find a different mountain to climb, you know? But I've realized, it's not in my control. I mean, if you remember, back earlier, I had thoughts of not even signing with PFL because I was so amped up about that fight. But, I really, truly believe I made the right decision. I feel like the PFL is changing the game. You know, there's not going to be any interim title holders here. There's not going to be any, this fight's off, that fight's off. I decline that fight. No, you have to fight. You have to win. And
that's some good shade, by the way, as the kids like to say. I respect it.
And if you win, you advance. And that's who I am. I'm a winner, and here I get to prove it.
Right. So you're going to be a part of that tournament. There's going to be 6 divisions featured. Are you able to tell us what weight classes, or is that TBD?
Yeah, we'll have 5 male weight classes, and then the women's 155.
Okay.
We did eliminate this year. So last year we had 6 weight classes.
Yep.
This year we have 6 weight classes, but we are eliminating the middleweight class for men this year.
Okay.
To accommodate integrating the women's 155. And based on the amount of events that we have and the length of each event and the experience, we feel it's optimal.
Okay.
But longer term, you'll see us add middleweight back into the mix.
And is the prize at the end still the same? Still $1 million?
Prize is the end. So 6 champions in 2019 on New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Will each have the opportunity to not only be crowned champion in their respective weight class, but each will have the opportunity to earn $1 million.
Wow. And I imagine you were there December 31st, right?
I was.
What is it like? So I was doing this, obviously watched it afterwards and was keeping tabs. Like, you have guys like Anthony Taylor, right? No, not Anthony Taylor. Lewis Taylor. We were just talking about Anthony Taylor with James Gallagher. Lewis Taylor, like a veteran, right? Sean O'Connell, who's been sort of a journeyman, if you will. To see these men walk away with that check, what was that like? Because this is unheard of money for them. More money than they made in their entire careers combined. What was that like?
Oh, it was incredible. I think it was a moment not only for those athletes who earned it, but it was a moment in the sport that to recognize the athletes and give them a true pay for performance model. Last season, when people would talk about what makes the PFL different, certainly the format. When you start hearing from fans, I enjoy that. Every fight counts, and that's true. Every fight leads to something. There's no undercard. So the journey last year, the most exciting thing going back to New Year's Eve was watching all of these athletes, their journey. We told their stories. They proved it to themselves and to the larger sport as a whole that they were worthy enough to compete on this stage and become a champion. So they earned every bit of it. And it was our way to not only advance the athletes, but advance the sport.
You fought on that card.
I did.
Do you remember seeing some of these guys like backstage?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was like
$1 million.
First of all, the atmosphere was just electric. I think it was a great night of fights. It was, you work your whole life and you dream your whole life and you have these goals and you have these visions for yourself. And maybe somewhere along the way you lose sight of it, or you step off the path a little bit and you stumble. And, like for me, watching Sean win was, it was just like, I couldn't believe it, first of all, because he was such a huge underdog. And then, Vinny had been killing people all year. And it was like, no, he doesn't even stand a chance. Everyone counted him out. And he's such a goofball, too. Like, he's very personable and easygoing and, always doing pranks and having jokes and stuff. And he went out there and he said, no, I'm going to own this night. This is my night. I'm going to change my life and my family's life. and I'm going to go out on top. And I think that's like, you can't script that. You can't write that. You can't, it's magic.
Yeah, Sean definitely fought his fight. We did have a lot of heart for Vinny. He'll be back.
Sure.
But Sean will be back. He'll be in the broadcast booth.
Oh, okay.
And he'll continue with the PFL.
So that is confirmed, because I know that's something that he was hoping for.
Yep.
That is great to hear as well. And so one of the things that I think is actually really smart about what you guys do is essentially the season format allows for the fans to sort of miss you guys, right? You know, that's one of the NFL is the most popular sports property on earth. But come February, first week of February, they go away. And then come July, when training camp opens,
fired up.
everyone's like foaming at the mouth.
Sure.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
So you build
I
demand.
like this.
Yeah,
Boy,
we'll
that
have
is
year. I
true.
mean, we'll tell stories year round and following the athletes in training camp. They inspire the fans, but for sure, having a league format, a season that starts in May and finishes up at the end of the year, it's easy to follow. In our view, it's built to create stars, and advertisers and sponsors really understand how to activate a league model.
Okay, I was just about to ask about.
But it's also better. It's better for the fans. You know the fighters, and it's better for the athletes. You know, you're not going to sit there waiting by the phone for 6 months, wondering when you're going to fight again. You know, being pulled around and jerked around, and this is the season. This is when it starts. This is how it goes. This is the format. You know, it's professional.
So you had a uniform, if you will, but you also allowed the fighters to have their own sponsors. Yep. Is that going to remain the same, or is it being modified?
No, that'll continue.
Okay.
I mean, we're a fighters first league. We want our athletes to have an opportunity to sort of earn and through sponsorship. So we foster that. They'll have the opportunity to bring on up to 2 sponsors each athlete.
Okay.
Yep.
You also mentioned the fact that the organization is, a baby, right? I mean, still not yet even walking if we're comparing it to an actual baby. Is there anything that the organization learned from last year, the maiden voyage, that you're doing differently this time around, behind the scenes, anything at all, operation-wise?
Sure. Yeah, we look at everything. We're a real business, applying all lessons learned, how to improve, how to elevate from a competition standpoint, from a brand building standpoint, from an operations point of view. As it relates to the competition, we haven't finalized it, but we are looking at the quarter and semifinal. The number of rounds in the quarters in particular, in addition to how to really measure that win. Is it the first round? Is it the second round? Should it be 3 rounds? There's been dialogue on that, so I think that was a big lesson learned there.
Okay.
We want the athletes to really earn their way, and less decisions is a good thing. So we're going to tinker with that. More to come. And from an operational standpoint, I think a few things. Experientially, I think outside of delivering innovation in the cage through our Smart Cage platform, and telling stories around data and analytics of fighter performance, but the experience in venue we're also redefining. And we've created the Cage Side Club, which is basically a VIP area where 25% of the floor is like a party. And we've noticed that fans dig standing up and cheering on their favorite athletes throughout a night. And we polled fans. We listened to them. We talked to some of our sponsors as well. So we're changing the game in a number of ways and thinking about innovation, not just for innovation's sake, but for the betterment of the sport, the athletes, and the experience.
Also starting the season a little bit earlier, because there were a lot of, medical suspensions and fighters with injuries. So the longer the season is, the easier it is for athletes to be able to fight and continue to fight.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think maybe to add to that, what Kayla's saying, she's right on. We actually, our first half of the season, which is May and June, those 3 events, we'll then take a 4-week break.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then we'll come back at it for the second half of the regular season in July and August. So those athletes will get an opportunity to prepare for the upcoming fights on the back half of the season.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So little tweaks here and there.
Mm-hmm.
For you, are you happy with 155? Would you have preferred 145? How do you feel?
I don't think any girl's going to tell you, oh yeah, no, I'd much rather have to lose all of this weight. I never cut weight in judo. I don't believe in it. I don't believe what it, the message it sends to young boys and girls around the world. And I think you're seeing a change in the thought process of fighters. Slowly, people are starting to move up in weight classes.
Right.
You're seeing people fight closer to their natural weight. So 155 is great for me. I know that, again, there are going to be doubters, there are going to be naysayers, but you can't, you have to start somewhere. And we're going to start on top of my shoulders.
Okay. Is there anyone that you want to see them sign to test
Fight
yourself?
anyone. I don't care.
No one in particular. There's no one that you have. I feel like this would be a good test.
Oh, are you kidding me? Every time I watch females fight, I'm like, let's do this.
Yeah.
But you got to stay a little humble. So.
But there's no names in particular, or you may even know the field already.
No, I don't know anyone who's been
Okay.
signed.
All right.
It's a surprise.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. Yes. Corporate J, can we see that full screen one more time to let the people know once again just how big of a deal this is? Again, you see it right there. The PFL has signed a 2-year deal with us, ESPN, baby. ESPN and ESPN Plus becoming the exclusive home of the Professional Fighters League here in the U.S. And very happy. I actually didn't know this about TSN, which is the worldwide leader in sports or I guess the Canadian leader in sports, I should say. Worldwide leader in Canadian sports, maybe. That's huge. I didn't know about that. Yeah. So thank you for that heads up. And that starts also with the first show on May 9th as well. So there you have all the information. First show, May 9th. Do we know where that is, or is that TBD?
TBD.
Okay. You can't give us everything. I'm very greedy.
Right. That's
you
okay.
are.
We'll be back, Ariel.
I want everything. This is such a big deal, and I can't thank you guys enough for announcing it on my show. It really means a lot. But again, for ESPN to now be the home for 2 MMA organizations, and great point on your part, killing it. I mean, just last week signing Tyson Fury to Top Rank, and all the events that they're doing on linear television. Michaela Mayer, who's doing great, fellow Olympian, right,
Yep.
on ESPN just a couple of weeks ago. It's just so exciting to be here and to see all the old guard sports people now starting to say, like, what's this MMA thing?
And you're in charge of it all, Ariel.
Yes,
You're like the leader.
I think you are the face. It's so smart that you bring her along because she's good at these interview things. I don't know if you know this.
Absolutely.
I just enjoy having a
Kayla's
good
great
conversation, and you're the best at conversation, aren't you?
I appreciate that, Kayla. Thank you guys so much. Congratulations on this monumental deal,
Thank
not
you.
just for you guys, the sport, and ESPN as well. It's really exciting. I can't wait. May 9th,
Buckle up.
I may be there.
Well,
You better
I would like to be
there.
Side. You should
If you're not at
broadcast
my
live.
next fight, I'm going to take personal offense.
Okay, deal.
All right.
There you have it. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Appreciate it, Ariel.
We don't have commercial breaks here, so you guys
So
can
we're
just
just gonna,
walk off.
we're gonna
Yes,
levitate
that's how we do
again.
it.
Okay,
we
everyone
put this,
close your eyes.
We put this thing up here, and then you guys can
Levitating.
walk off. Thank you guys so much. There's Peter Murray, the CEO of the PFL.
Appreciate
I
it.
really appreciate it. And Kayla Harrison, the great Kayla Harrison, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, coming on this program to let you know that the PFL is now exclusively on ESPN. Who would have thunk it a year ago that ESPN would be the home to now 2 MMA organizations, UFC and PFL. Wow. And that the UFC is now kind of in bed as well with this is just huge stuff. Wrap your head around this, my friends. This hasn't happened before. To share the spotlight with another organization, to have these 2 organizations here on the worldwide, this is just, it's just huge. I am so excited. And I was sort of joking about it to our guests. You walk around here, you go to different places, you go to the cafeteria, you go there. Everyone's talking about MMA. Everyone's talking about how exciting the sport is. People who just weren't exposed to it, who are, so focused on football, basketball. What is happening now in a month and a half since the sport has come over to ESPN has been nothing short of amazing. And I'm just so honored to be a very, very, very small part of it. So super exciting times. Congrats again to everyone at the PFL. Congrats to Peter Murray, the whole team over there, Kayla Harrison, all the fighters who will be featured. ESPN Plus, ESPN2 coming this May, the PFL on ESPN. How about that? Wow. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Now let us keep the train moving along. As I said at the top of the show, some big news late last week. UFC 236, we now know the main event. It's going to be Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 2. A lot of you noobs may not remember they fought way back when, UFC 143. That was Max Holloway's first fight. Dustin Poirier won that fight. Now they rematch for the interim featherweight title. And the Diamond is kind enough to be joining us. There he is, Dustin Poirier. Dustin, how are you?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. Thank you. We just had your teammate, Kayla Harrison, in studio there announcing that PFL news. Now, good to talk to another ATT member. And I believe you're in Florida right now, correct?
I am.
And so just following you on Twitter, like I was over the last couple of weeks, like I was frustrated for you. I was anxious for you because it seemed like with every tweet you were getting more and more frustrated. When you finally got the call that you had a date, that you were fighting for a belt, interim or not, that you knew when your next assignment would be. What was that feeling like?
It was exciting, it didn't feel real when I got the call. But something inside of me flipped right away, and I knew I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to get done before then, and it's a big challenge, and I accept it, and I'm excited. But I don't only accept it, I honor it. I respect this opportunity, and I'm going to take full advantage of it.
Are you okay that it's for an interim belt?
Yeah, because then I'll unify it after. But first things first, it's a step in the right direction for sure. It's a step in the direction of my ultimate goal of being a world champion.
How did this come together? Because for the last few weeks, I had heard that they were talking to Ferguson to fight Holloway, and then you slid in there, and Ferguson sending out these cryptic tweets. We're not really sure what his status is. How did your involvement, come together? How long ago was that?
It wasn't long at all. I had flights booked to go home already. I was going to leave yesterday. Had to switch my flights and everything. I didn't know what was going on with the division. Really, I was kept in the dark. I thought there was going to be a little bit of clarity after the hearing happened, and that still didn't really give us a whole lot of news on what was going to be next. I was waiting on a fight offer. I've been out here since late December or early January, just preparing, training, getting better, working on my craft. I just felt like something big was coming up, and I was just really waiting to hear something. I had no idea. There was talks of maybe Iaquinta, but I never got an official offer. Then I thought I was going to be maybe in Philadelphia, but I didn't know what was going to happen then.
Okay, so when did you fly out to Florida initially?
I flew out here. It might have been first week of January. I don't know, maybe right after New Year's, I think.
Okay, and you flew out without a date, right? Like without any fight, without an opponent. You just had a feeling that something was going to come up, so you wanted to start getting ready?
Yeah, I go to Louisiana after fights, and I live in Louisiana. But that was a long stretch between my last fight and I just got antsy. I wanted to be back in the gym with the best guys in the world. Not that my guys in Louisiana aren't great. I just needed to be back around this kind of camaraderie of professional guys getting ready for big fights and pushing each other. So I just came out here. I felt like something was going to happen, and I wanted to be ready and jump on an opportunity. And so I think I've been out here 7 weeks or so, and then here we go, 7 weeks away.
So your premonition was correct, but it seems like just based off what you just said, you were starting to lose hope, and you actually booked a flight home. You essentially said, screw this, I'm done with this?
Well, I was just going to go home and, hang out back in Louisiana at my house for a while, visit family again, just spend some time there, train there. But I just felt like nothing was going to come. Nothing was happening here. I waited here, 7 months training and waiting by the phone every day, just staying ready, and nothing happened. So I was like, this might be, nothing's going to happen. But I'm glad I was here when I got the call.
When you started to hear that it was going to be Ferguson Holloway, is that really when you started to lose hope and patience?
Yeah, I was a little upset about that. I wanted a big fight, man. I've been paying my dues for a long time, but I stayed patient. My wife and my management, I was talking to them every week and about everything, and my wife was talking to me every day, like, just stay patient and something good's gonna happen. And sure enough, man.
Is it true? I think you kind of hinted at this on Twitter, but did you in fact ask for your release?
I didn't officially call Dana or Sean, but I was serious. I was like, if this stuff doesn't get cleared up, why am I being punished for these guys? I've been paying my dues and winning fights and sacrificing. Why am I on the sidelines being punished for somebody else's action?
Did you ever even have a conversation with them to gain some clarity as to what was going on?
I did. About a week and a half ago, I called Dana on his cell phone personally out of the blue. And I talked to him for about 20 minutes, just about the whole picture, my career, my goals, and what I'm going to do this year.
How did that conversation go?
I listened to what he had to say, and then I said what I believe and what I had to say. I didn't, bite my tongue, and it was a good conversation.
Do you feel like that conversation, speaking to him man to man, do you feel like that helped you get this title shot?
I don't think it hurt it. It definitely didn't hurt it.
Yeah.
I basically called him up and just said, you have a lot of respect for you, and you're the guy who goes out there and tells these young fighters, if you want to make money, if you want to get big fights, you got to go out there and finish fights. You got to go out there and leave it all on the line. And I just kind of told him that, and I said that's what I do every time I step into the octagon. I risk it all every time, and here we are, title shot.
By the way, do you know why Ferguson is not getting this fight?
I have no clue. I don't think it was you. I think somebody messaged me and said that it wasn't about money. Because at first we all thought maybe he was asking for or pushing for a lot of, a crazy amount or something, and the UFC didn't agree. But I heard it's not about money, so I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what he's got going on. I wish the best for him and his family. I hope he's all right. Hope he's good.
How do you feel about Max fighting for a belt? I mean, as a guy at 155 who had been sort of scratching and clawing to get a title shot, he's a 145 champion moving up, as opposed to someone like, obviously Ferguson we talked about, but an ally Quinta. How do you feel about Max being your opponent for this title fight?
It's a little weird for him to jump up and get a crack at the interim belt, but at the same time, if I'm the next guy, this fight makes sense on the storyline that I beat him 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
His first fight in the UFC, and look what he's done since then. He's defending his belt. He's undisputed world champion at 145. He beat arguably one of the best featherweights in the world twice, stopped him twice. I think he's on a 12-fight win streak. He's got all kind of records, all kind of numbers. He's really been doing his thing. And, I've been a fan of Max since we fought. And this isn't that same fight. This is a completely different fight. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited for the challenge. Like I said, I honor this, man. This April 13th is going to be a beautiful night.
How much do you remember about that first fight at 143? Like you said, Holloway's debut in the UFC, it's amazing. Like you look back at that footage, he looked like a kid. And you were a kid as well. You have grown so much as a fighter. You won. It was dominant. He took the fight on relatively short notice. How much do you actually remember about that fight?
I remember the lead up to the fight because my opponents got switched like 2 or 3 times. I was supposed to fight Ricardo Lamas. Then I was supposed to fight Yaya or maybe Eric Koch. I think like a few guys got hurt in a row, and it was a last-minute thing. And this was a young kid from Hawaii who was 20 years old, I believe, and only had 4 professional fights. And he was hot at the moment because I heard about Max because Jeremy Stevens brought Max into camp to help him prepare for Anthony Pettis. So, people knew who he was on the MMA scene. He was just a young prospect, a good kickboxer, a scrappy guy coming out of Hawaii.
And you ended up winning that fight. He has turned into such a great fighter. Now the featherweight champion, moving up to 155 pounds to get this interim title shot. Have you been promised, Dustin, that if you win this fight, you will fight Khabib Nurmagomedov next to unify the belts?
No, I have not been promised that. But I assume when I get the belt wrapped around my waist, that's what it means. That's what an interim title means. It means you're next.
Well, you know what happens when you assume, Dustin. You heard about this, right?
Yeah, but I tell you what, we'll get to that bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I got my hands full. I got another 6 weeks of grind, and I don't want to create problems that aren't there yet. I got a lot to do before that.
Sure. But all you have to do is talk to your teammate, Colby Covington, right? It can happen. You could win that belt and the unification bout doesn't come. So I was just curious if that's actually been discussed beforehand. Will you even try to discuss this beforehand?
Nah, I'll talk to Dana as soon as the fight's over with.
Okay.
We'll do it that way.
Cross that bridge then. For you, being in the sport for so long, making your debut in 2009, going through so much. I remember UFC 125. You were supposed to fight Jose Aldo, and that was for a title, and that got taken away from you after he got hurt. You ended up fighting Josh Crispy. I mean, you've been through so much to finally know that you're going to fight for a UFC belt, interim or not, what's at stake afterwards or not, unification. What is that like? Has that truly sunk in yet?
It feels surreal, man. Every morning I'm waking up, like as soon as my eyes open, I'm excited. I can't wait to go get out the door and start working. It's just good vibes, man. I feel good, and it feels earned. You know, I don't feel like in a weird way, I was here, I was preparing. Some fights didn't come together, and here I am fighting for the interim belt. But I don't feel like it was by chance. I feel like this was earned, and destiny doesn't make mistakes, man. And I'm going to be the world champion this year.
What do you think it's going to feel like when they wrap the belt around your waist?
I can feel it. I can smell it, dude. I can feel the weight. I can feel the texture of it. I'm going to beat Max Holloway April 13th.
Will you watch
There's
that?
No doubt in my mind.
Will you watch that first fight a lot, or do
I
you?
won't watch it. I'm not going to watch it once.
Okay. Why?
Because this is a completely different fight. I'm preparing for a completely different person. I'm not that person anymore. This is a completely different fight. I'd be doing myself a disservice by watching that and trying to pick up tendencies he or I were doing. This isn't that. This is a completely different fight. We're evolved so much more since we've both evolved so much more since 2012. 7 years of fighting in the UFC at the highest level against the best guys in the world. You know, people don't even have careers that long in the UFC. And here we are, relatively young. I am relatively young. I think he's still in his 27 or 28. You know, this is a completely different fight.
By the way, just curious, Nate Diaz has said some things, implying things about you pulling out of that fight and the fight that never materialized. What's your, do you have a response to Nate?
I'm going to be the world champ this year. That's my response. But be real. Be real, man. Tell the truth. Tell them how you was playing games, how you over-negotiated, how you didn't take the main event spot when the UFC offered it to us. Man, so much. Oh, man. They were offering me different opponents, maybe as backup because they knew Nate was out of the fight. So much stuff happened. Look, maybe me and Nate will cross paths one day. I don't know. But just be real, dude. You preach all this stuff. Practice what you preach, man. Be real. Tell the truth.
And you don't think he's telling the truth right now?
Oh, what did he say?
I think implying that you were the one that sort of, you know, you're the reason why the fight never happened.
No. I had a hip injury that I was training through. And then when he kept playing around, playing games, and then we started talking about replacement opponents and stuff, then we were like, okay, let's go get this hip fixed, you know?
All right. Well, it's not Nate next. It's Max Holloway next. It's April 13th, UFC 236 interim lightweight title. They fought once in the featherweight division way back when, but now it is going to be for the interim lightweight title, and it's a main event, and Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum is the co-main event for the interim middleweight title. History will be made. 2 interim titles on the line, Dustin. This is a big deal.
It is, man. Big deal for me.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate the time, Dustin. Congratulations on getting the fight. I could tell already, like this must be like a jolt of energy, of positivity throughout your body after the week that you were probably having last week, right? I mean, what a difference a week makes for you, correct?
Oh, dude, it feels like the sun's shining on me everywhere I go right now.
It's amazing. Well, good luck in camp. Looking forward to it. We'll see you out there in Atlanta. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
All right, there he is, Dustin Poirier, the Diamond, finally getting that title fight. It goes down April 13th in Atlanta against Max Holloway, rematch of UFC 143. I wonder if they'll put the number 2 there, because sometimes if it's in a different weight class or different circumstances, they don't. Second time they fought, I think it should be called number 2, right? Poirier, Holloway 2. All right.
It is called number 2.
It is number 2, Corporate Jake is telling me. All right, there you go. Breaking news. Very exciting. Now, top of the show, I talked about George St. Pierre. I talked about how big of an honor it was for me to be covering that moment, how great it was to see him go out on top, to do it his way, doing it unlike any other in this game, in this MMA game, where he wins a title and then walks away 26-2. He avenges his only 2 losses. He is the greatest of all time, without a doubt, in my opinion. No black cloud hanging over his record, his legacy, and the man who was by his side for the majority of those 26 victories is our guest at this time. Joining us from La Belle Province, joining us from Montreal, Firas Zahabi, who is gracious enough to come on the show. I text him. I get like 1 reply per 10 texts these days. He's so busy, but it's great to have him back on the program. Firas, how are you?
Hey, Ariel. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure for us, and it was great to see you last week in Montreal. So when did you find out that GSP was going to make this announcement, that he officially decided to retire?
It's been a long time coming. He's been on the fence for a while about it, and I've been actually encouraging him to try. I've been trying to convince him to retire. I think when you're on the fence like that for so long, the answer is to hang it up. And a few weeks before he announced his retirement, he told me he had made his decision, and here we are.
He was trying to get that fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov. He said that on Thursday. Were you in favor of him trying to get that fight? Like if the UFC would have said yes, would you have been in favor of that fight happening?
Yes, if George was going to fight again, I think it would have been great if they did 165, GSP versus Khabib, and that would have been his next fight. Anything other than that, it would have to have been McGregor if McGregor had beaten Khabib, and maybe McGregor steps in at 165, but it was really one of those two names. I think after Khabib won against McGregor, his name exploded. Everybody knows who he is right now. He was a great candidate for a fight with George, but unfortunately, he fell through.
Could George have even gone down to 155? Was that a possibility at all?
I think there was a time in his career he could have done it. I wanted him to go down to 155 for one or two fights years ago when he was champion. I wanted him to try to get that winning two categories at once. I had come out publicly about it. I got a lot of blowback from everybody, but years later he had thought about it. He had agreed that he could do it once or twice in his career. But right now, I don't think he has no motivation to do it. These last few years, I think, after he was slowing down his career, I don't think he had the motivation anymore to go down to 155. However, 165, I'm sure that's something he would have done.
And so for you to have him go out like this, in the fight game, so often it gets uncomfortable towards the end of a fighter's career, right? They don't look like themselves. They're getting knocked out. We've seen it time and again in this sport, in boxing, in every combat sport. To have your guy that you've been through so much with by his side go out as a double champion, to go out on this winning streak, that must be, a massive accomplishment and a source of pride for you as well, because this is the blueprint, right? This is how every fighter wants to go out. To actually get it done, to see it happen with him of all people, what does that feel like?
It's amazing. For me, it's a storybook ending. I told him, you just won the middleweight title. It's time to hang it up. You won it in New York. I told him, you're the king of New York. What else do you want? That's it. End it here. Because for me, health is number one. Health is number one. He has a lot of fighting time in the octagon. He's taking a lot of shots. It's just, as you get older, your body starts to break down. He's had 2 ACL injuries. Now he's much healthier than he was when he was fighting every 3-4 months, near the end of his career. His body was really breaking down. And I told him, you cannot, do that for too long. He, in the Guinness Book of World Records, I can't remember which year it was, George St. Pierre had the world record for most time in the octagon.
Wow.
I know he's been surpassed since. However, there was a time where nobody had spent more time fighting in the octagon than him. And the body has an expiry date. It has a certain amount of kilometers it can take.
Were you aware how sick he was going into that Bisping fight? And of course, afterwards, he was a lot more public. But did you realize what toll that took on his body, the colitis and just gaining all that weight?
Yeah, the symptoms were manifesting themselves during camp, but we don't like to try to talk too much about injuries and illness when we're in camp, because then you start to focus your mind on that. You start to, when you're in camp, we're like, are you injured or are you hurt? If you're hurt, let's not talk about it. If you're injured, we gotta, call the fight. We gotta call the UFC, tell them the fight is off. If you're hurt, that means we're still taking the fight. We can work around this. I like to distinguish between those two things. But if you're hurt, I don't like to talk about it. Hurt and injured is two separate things. And George was telling me, he's going to go through it no matter what. So I didn't want to talk about it too much, even between me and him, because I don't want to focus our mind or energy there. And then after the fight, it was time to take a break and, heal. And he did. He's healed from it now. He's a lot better. And, health is number one. That's what I always tell the guys.
I remember after he won that fight, he stayed in the octagon a little longer. It seemed like he was really letting it soak in and acknowledge the crowd. Did you think that night that there was a good chance that was the last time that he was going to fight?
Yes, I thought, that's why me and him stayed in the octagon quite a while. You're right. And, for him, he kept telling me what just happened. I'm like, you just won the middleweight world title. He's like, it can't be. It's not true. And I was like, yes, it is, man. Congratulations. You're the world champion at middleweight. He was like, it was such a great moment for him. He was in a little bit of disbelief that, that he's back in the octagon. He hadn't been there in years. And not only did he win the title, he won the middleweight title. It was a very special moment for both our careers. And, it's just a storybook ending. I told him, George, this is it, man. This is the final chapter. Hang it up. Let's do it, man. Hang it up.
One thing that I've learned a little later in his career, he's talked about it a lot more now, is just how nervous he would get. And I think it was interesting on Thursday at his press conference, he said that he would dread fight day. He loved the build-up, he loved the training, he loved the camaraderie, but fight day and the fight itself was his least favorite part of the process. I'm sure you've been in the back. Like, how bad was it? How much did he actually hate this? And is it, for me, it's weird for someone to be that successful, but to hate doing what he was so good at, right? Isn't that strange?
You know what? I think it wasn't just the fighting. I think it was the expectations of everybody. Everybody expects George not only to win, but to win every position. Like, if GSP gets taken down, it's a big deal. If you're new to the UFC or you're fighting in the regional circuit and you get taken down, nobody's talking about it. But if George makes one mistake or gets hit with a good shot, people are all talking about it. So I think it's also expectations. There's a lot of pressure on him to perform and to have a flawless win or to win every single round. It's just the expectations of everybody. I think that weighs down on him. He wants to live up to the expectations, but anybody who knows sports, even the best of the best can have a bad night. I think that really scares him. And of course, the fear of getting hurt. I think that's on everybody's mind. But George, I would say he's more nervous than most. That's for sure.
When did you first meet George? Do you remember when?
I met George before his first pro fight. So I was training David Loiseau in Montreal in the TriStar gym. George was training in a smaller gym with Christophe Midou. They were kind of like bouncing around different gyms. The most popular fighter and the first fighter from Quebec to go to UFC was David Loiseau. So George came into TriStar wanting to train with David Loiseau and me and the coaching staff we had there, Angelo Exarchos and all the coaches there. Because it was the hot spot. It was the first team to go to UFC, and me and him just got along right away. We became training partners. We were training together on a daily basis right away. After his first loss to Matt Serra, he wanted me to take over because we were more like-minded. We were trying to do mixed martial arts, where the other trainers really were trying to impose their style on us. We had a kickboxing coach, a wrestling coach. Everybody wanted us to do their sport, and I think mixed martial arts was a bit it was new. We didn't know how to put the pieces together. Me and him were more we wanted to be a more well-rounded system, so he asked me to take over, and since then we've won every fight together.
Do you recall when you sort of realized how special he could be, that he could be one of the greats of all time? Do you remember, like, was it the first time you saw him? Did a light go off later on? When did that happen for you?
Well, I'll tell you something. After he lost to Matt Serra, a number of people told me, don't train him. Like, back then, TriStar was very cutthroat. I didn't own TriStar Gym there. When I owned TriStar Gym, I really changed the culture of TriStar. At that time, it was like, hey, it was a very rough place, TriStar. If you came in there and you gloved up, we were there to beat you up. We wanted to knock you down. We wanted to hurt you. It was a very rough place. And a lot of the coaches were telling me, don't train George. He's going to get knocked out again. He has no chin. After he lost to Matt Serra, everybody was saying, look, his run is up, man. He got lucky. He beat Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes is not a striker. All these guys are better wrestlers than him. They have powerful punches. And they're going to knock George out over and over again. And I was like, look, it might happen. I didn't know George was going to go on a win streak. I honestly didn't. Hindsight, people think it was obvious. It wasn't. At that time, he was fighting Koscheck next. After his loss to Matt Serra, he was fighting Koscheck. And Koscheck was known as a big puncher who was going to out-wrestle George easily. At least that's what everybody, thought. And I was like, look, he's my friend. I'm going to train him either way. Win, lose, or draw. I'm going to help him. He's my friend. Why wouldn't I help him? And after he beat Koscheck, I was expecting him to beat Koscheck, but I thought it was going to be a really hard fight. Like, I didn't know if he would win. And then he was just going after win after win. But the time that he really proved to me that I think he's... Because don't forget, the third time he beat Matt Hughes, it was an older, slower Matt Hughes. We were very confident for that third fight with Hughes. It's when he beat BJ Penn. When he beat BJ Penn at UFC 94, he beat John Fish. Those were hard fights. Those were fights where, like, if you beat this guy, like, we know... you're one of the greatest pound for pound, and that was always the goal for George. He had high hopes, But early in his career, nobody knew he was going to be so great.
That's wild to me that after he lost to Matt Serra, like the guy is at his lowest, there are people trying to convince you to jump ship, to leave the guy.
Absolutely.
That's what kind of people are these? What kind of teammates, friends are
No,
these?
it's a rough business. Let me tell you, it's a tough business. Fighting is a tough business. But the culture of TriStar is very different now. We train every level. If you're the best or you're not the best, we try to, develop your skills. And I find that makes better fighters. That just makes a better place. I enjoy going to the gym even more. But early on in George's career, believe me, there was a lot of doubt. Even George had a lot of doubt. He'll tell you he had a lot of doubt because Matt Serra was supposed to lose, and Matt Serra didn't lose.
Right.
He won quite easily.
Is that one of the things you're most proud of in your career? Because he also talked last week about how embarrassed he was, how down he was after that fight. To build him back up and to never have him lose afterwards, to build up his confidence, to build up his game. Some people said that he changed a bit after the Serra fight, that he took the easy way out. I would argue that he just evolved his game and he figured out how to be a proper fighter and learn from his mistakes. But to build him back up, that must have been a tough thing to do because it sounded like he was truly at rock bottom.
Well, I don't know who would say he took the easy way out. He fought the hardest fights. I mean, he fought and dominated the golden age of the welterweight division. It was the golden age of the welterweight division. At least that's how I see it. I don't see him taking the easy way out. I think he fought smart and avoided going toe to toe. If that's the easy way out, then yes, he definitely, fought smart. He fought intelligent. That's why he lasted so long. And look, I always encourage health first. We want the fights to be action-packed. We want wins. We want finishes. But we also have to fight in an intelligent way. Preserving your health is the most important thing. And people are smart. Smart champions last long. Smart champions last long. And George was definitely a smart champion.
What's your favorite GSP moment? In a fight, behind the scenes, a moment you shared privately? Is there when you're 80 years old and you're talking to your grandkids about the great GSP that you once coached, that you traveled the world with, you were by his side, you guys were the best team? What's the moment that defines that time together?
There's too many great moments, but the best moment for us, I think, was UFC 94. I think that's when was just when we broke out on a world stage. When before UFC 94, the fight versus BJ Penn, we would come home from the US, and not many people would know who we are. We weren't getting real attention here, and at that point, MMA was still being rejected by a lot of the media in Quebec, in Canada, as a rough sport, barbaric sport, violent sport. But after UFC 94, after everybody, saw the prime times and the 24, like the previews that they had up to those fights, we had a camera crew following us for a month out before that fight. The UFC had paid millions of dollars promoting that fight, and it got into everybody's homes, and that's when TriStar GSP exploded. Everybody knew who we were. People started traveling from all over the world to come train at TriStar Gym. That was the time where we got in touch with, after that fight with BJ Penn, George can call up any trainer, any training partner. They were all willing to come down and work with us. And it was just such a magical, incredible time for us.
I'm happy you said that because I remember noting a few times that I felt like the Quebec media didn't appreciate GSP, that they had one of their own as the greatest fighter in the world, and that I would go to his fights and it would be like one journalist from Montreal covering this, and I couldn't understand. Like in boxing, you would see tons of people traveling with the French Canadian boxers, and with GSP, it felt like they were really late. Now it seems like they accept him, they give him the props that he is owed, but I think that's a great point on your part. They were a little late to the party. The fans, I don't think were, but the media seemed to be a little late to the party as well. To have him, it sounds to me like he is still at the gym quite often these days, to still have like the great GSP there for your younger fighters. Do you sense, like I asked him on Thursday, what's his now, like what are the things he's most proud of? And he says that sometimes he'll see a fighter doing something wrong on the bag and he'll go up to him and he'll see their eyes just kind of explode and they can't believe that GSP is talking to them. Do you see that? Like what not just him being there, the presence, the impact that he has, how important is that for you as the head coach over there?
Well, he retired on Thursday, and Friday morning he was there for practice.
No way. Really?
Yeah. He just taught class today. I just came back from one of his classes.
That's
we
incredible.
wrestled, we did jiu-jitsu, we put in a bunch of rounds. He loves martial arts. George is not only a phenomenal champion, he's a phenomenal human being. He's a great champion. He's an even greater human being. And like you said, he likes to help the youth. He likes to help people that are on that path, that journey. He's just a really, really good person. And that's why, honestly, I enjoyed working with him for so many years. Not only all those big wins, not only was he a hardworking person, but really, honestly, he showed a great example of what it's like to be a good person.
Are you the type to smell the roses? In other words, now that it's over, are you thinking to yourself like, man, I should have appreciated that more? I'm kind of sad I won't get one more journey with him. Are you fully at peace with this as well?
I am. I'm really happy with this. And like I said, I encouraged him. He was on the fence about it. He asked me what my vote is. And I told him, look, there's nothing left for you. Unless it's a mega fight with Khabib, there's really nothing left. And I didn't think that Khabib, I don't know what's going on in the behind doors with the business side. I don't do any of that. I'm too busy on the mats. But it seems like, I understand there's a lot of superstars and it's hard to get everybody to agree on one date, one time, one price, one weight. I'm sure it's a very complicated thing to do. I'm sure Dana White has his hands full. I'm sure UFC, I'm sure they tried every which way. I'm sure that they made a decision that made sense for them and their company. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't a Khabib fight, I don't see any other fight. So I just told him it's time to hang it up. And yes, I'm at peace with that. I'm really happy with his career. I like to look forward. We're going to have a lot of projects together. I'm sure me and George are going to be training a lot of different fighters together. We're going to be working. We're going to be going on more adventures, not George in the octagon, not George himself in the octagon, but I'm sure there's plenty of adventures to come.
You know how it is in the fight game. People retire, they come back. Do you think 100% he's done?
I believe there's a fire in George. I believe that one day there's going to be an incredible opportunity for a fight and he might come back. Yes, that's always a possibility. Why? I can imagine if Ben Askren went on a tear and nobody can beat him. I think if the UFC calls George, hey, could you come and fight this guy? It would have to be something like that. And he's good enough to do it. There's other names out there that can build themselves to a super megastar status and entice George to come back. Because the truth of the matter is, I don't think George wants to win a belt, defend it every 3-4 months, protect it, and go back to what he used to do. I think those days are done. That would take too much out of his life. But to come in for a mega fight years down the line or, whenever, I think that would be tempting to George. He might say no and he might feel no and he might be like, that's it, I'm hanging it up. But George is a really competitive guy. You guys have gotten to know George over the years. If there's a unjumpable hurdle, he'll want to try to jump it. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's very competitive, incredibly competitive person.
So it sounds like you've left the door open a little bit here. So in your mind, there's still maybe a little you don't think it's 100% done.
I don't want to speak for George. This is just me observing George for so many years, and I just think that deep down inside, he's so competitive, and it would have to be a super hard challenge.
Okay.
It would have to be somebody of an Anderson Silva-like status. It would have to be somebody like that. That's what he would come back for.
Okay. By the way, one last quick thing before I let you go. How is Rory? Speaking of kind of picking yourself up after what happened against Gegard Mousasi, mentally, spiritually, how is he as he's trying to get back on the horse here against a guy that John Fitch?
Yes, of course. He's back in training, and we're trying to correct what happened in the last fight for sure. The last time it didn't go well. He got his nose injured in round 1, so it was a tough fight for him to get around. We're making sure that the next time we go in there, it's not going to happen again, and we're getting ready. We're getting ready for that fight.
He told me that he felt off the entire time. In the locker room, he felt off. He felt like he didn't want to be there. Is that alarming for you to hear as a coach?
Of course, we got to make sure, we got to find out why. Why are you not feeling like you want to be in there? And we got to make sure that the next fight, he has to want to be there. We have to get the job done, and he has to defend his title. And believe me, we're working hard towards that fight.
All right. For us, congratulations. What a run for you guys. Amazing to see two Montrealers do what you did on the biggest stage possible, and so cool to see him go out like that. Like, to have a press conference, to do it his way. These things don't happen in MMA. Like, you're usually pushed out, kicking and screaming. Just perfect. Everything was just perfect last week, and it was cool to see you there. So again, congrats. Thanks for doing this, and continued success to you and the team over at TriStar.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there he is. Firas Zahabi, the head coach over at TriStar MMA in Montreal, right next to the Orange Julep over there. And by the way, if you're ever in Montreal, if you're ever in that vicinity, go to the Orange Julep. No one's paying me to say this, but it's the greatest place on earth. It's like a big orange. It's literally like an orange, and they've got the best orange julep. Like you may have heard of like Orange Julius or those things that they have at the airports and whatnot. This is nothing like that. It's incredible. And if you go there, get the poutine, get the grilled cheese. It's like across the street, across a highway from where TriStar is. I couldn't recommend it enough. In fact, I've talked to GSP about the orange julep, and he told me that he may have said it on one of our shows. He told me that his favorite thing to have over there, I kid you not, and if you've never been there, you probably don't think this is weird, but he said that his favorite thing to have is the spaghetti and meatballs, which I didn't even know was on the menu. Like such a random thing. It's kind of like an old school drive-through. Like people can drive their cars up to it, and you walk up and you order it. It's all outside. It's the orange structure. It's massive. But spaghetti and meatballs is not exactly something that I thought that they were known for. One of the many things I will always appreciate and respect when it comes to the great George St. Pierre. So there you have it. He is done, at least for now. But as you heard from Firas, it always still feels like they leave that door ever so slightly open. So we shall see. For now, I think he's done. And gun to my head, I'm going to say I think he's done forever. All right. Let us move along. And in a matter of seconds, we're going to be joined, I do believe, by the great Kron Gracie, who made his long-awaited, much-anticipated UFC debut on Sunday of last week in Phoenix. He submitted Alex Caceres in the very first round. It was his first MMA fight in a little over 2 years, and it was a notable win on many fronts because in winning, he became the first member of the Gracie family to win a UFC fight since December 16th, 1994, when his uncle Royce Gracie won at UFC 4. Ever since then, a Gracie family member had not won inside the octagon. Of course, if you're watching this show, I don't need to tell you about the history of the Gracie family. You know very well how important they are to this sport and in the launching of the UFC. And so several fought in the UFC but did not win until last Sunday. Kron Gracie picks up that win, and everyone is buzzing. Everyone is excited, and only he knows this, but I've been trying to get him on this show long before that debut. I am so excited, so happy that we have finally located him and that we are now able to speak to the man that they call Ice Cream Kron. Kron Gracie, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. I've been bothering you for a long time, so it's great to have you on the show finally.
Yeah, it's good to be on. Now I actually got something to talk about.
All right. Well, congratulations on the win. Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I was hearing like some weird echo, but I think that was just a mistake on our end. Congratulations on the win. Here we are 8 days later. Are you still glowing after the win? Everyone's still talking. Everyone's still impressed. Everyone's still very excited about you bursting on the scene here. What has it been like for you?
It's been a cool experience. I trained really hard, for a long time for this fight, and I was negotiating with the UFC for almost a year, so I never knew when I was going to fight, so I'd always kind of have to stay in really good shape. So it's good to take like a week off and get right back into another training camp.
Why did it take so long to get this done? Why did it take a year?
It doesn't really matter at this point. I think everything got worked out and everything is where it should be, and I think I just got to an understanding that I'm really just trying to fight as much as possible with the best guys, irrespectively on how much money I'm making or what I feel like should be happening or what I deserve. I think it's beyond like that. I never did this for the money from the beginning, so I just kind of had to remember that.
Do you remember the first time you started to think about fighting in the UFC, like when this dream of yours was actually born?
I mean, as a kid, it was always like the UFC, and then my dad was fighting in Japan too, so it wasn't like, oh, the UFC was the only thing, because at a point, Pride was really big, and Pride was really where all the best fighters were, and then at some point, they kind of fell off, and the UFC kind of took all the best fighters, and I never knew how long that would stay or if that would be the case. But obviously at this point, all the best fighters are at the UFC. So, I mean, I knew I was always going to be fighting with the best. I just didn't know what organization it was going to be in.
And why, I mentioned your last fight was in December of 2016. Why did you take, 2+ years between fights? Why did you take that time off?
Well, I was still planning on fighting in Japan, and they always were really good to me. And at the moment, I was getting fights that were like giving me a bump up in my career. So I fought Kawajiri, and then I was waiting for another fight. And then as time went on, they just didn't have a fight that was like made sense for me. You know, nothing that was really motivating me to train. And even though the money was good, and Japan is always good to me, and I love fighting in front of the Japanese crowd, I think I was getting in it at an age where I'm like, I need to really put my test against the best, and that's what I wanted to do. So once I kind of started to think about the UFC, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what the UFC has to offer, and then that took a little bit longer than I expected. And life, you know, has its things, ups and downs too. So I'm glad we all got through that, and now I have one fight out of the way. Now I'm ready to show everybody else what more I got to show up for.
It felt, at least to me, like the eyes of the MMA world, the BJJ world, the Gracie family, they were all on Phoenix. They were all watching your fight. They were all very much anticipating your fight and wanting to see how you would do. And I think you said all the right things leading up to it. But afterwards, did you feel the weight of that drought, the 24 years without a win by a Gracie family member? Did you feel like you had to get that victory, not just for yourself, but for the family, so that people would stop talking about this?
I mean, I think it was nice to get that out of the way, but ultimately I don't put that kind of pressure on myself, or else it's hard to do anything, you know. So as much as I want to be able to do the best as possible, and I train for that, you know, everything's in God's hands, and whatever the fight gods have planned, that's what's going to happen. So I'm also glad that I was able to get the Gracie family out of the drought in the UFC. But I think it's funny because everybody was saying that the week of the fight, the whole UFC 24 years, Gracie hasn't won. And that might be true in the UFC, but in Pride and in a lot of different organizations, the Gracies have been not necessarily on top of everything, but they have been winning, and there has been great people in the family to represent. So I think specifically in the UFC, I was the first, but the Gracie family's been in the game, and they never really left.
Why do they call you Ice Cream Kron?
Well, I was like undefeated for like a few years in jiu-jitsu, and my brother-in-law was like, and I was winning all the fights by submission. Everything was like under a couple minutes, and my brother-in-law was like, man, they got to start calling you Ice Cream Kron because you just stay so cool under pressure. And then I thought it was like kind of a funny joke. Never really took it seriously. And then a couple years later, when I was trying to make a new logo, I was like, okay, this is actually means something more than just me in jiu-jitsu. And this is actually something that everybody can kind of, everybody at some point is going to have pressure on their back or some kind of stress, and they got to try to remember to stay cool. So I thought it was kind of cool in the long run.
It's a tremendous nickname, and I'm happy that you're running with it because it's one of my favorites right now in the game. Also, one of my favorites, and I'd love to ask you about this. It sounded, at least to me, like you walked out to like essentially just like a siren going over and over again. Like there was no music to it. It was just a siren, like almost like there was an emergency happening. What was the significance behind that?
I came out to, it's The Purge, you know the movie The Purge?
Okay, yeah.
So that's the siren that basically allows the purge to start. And for me, it's somebody's going to die, you know? Somebody's going to have a bad night. And I don't know if it's going to be me or if it's going to be him, but it's not a joke, you know? Fighting's never been a joke. It's never been even though I do entertain people, it's not like an entertaining thing for me. It's not like I'm going over there and I'm like, oh, let me put on a show. It's like, every time I fight, I have a lot on the line. I always have, and if somebody fights me, they also are going to feel that, you know. They're going to feel if they beat me, they beat a piece of the family, they beat a piece of the legacy, and they beat a piece of everything. It's not just a fight. And I carry that the same way when I'm fighting. It's like I'm not just fighting for myself or for a single thing. It's like it's a lot bigger than that. So it's basically war, and everybody needs to know that when they're fighting me.
It's phenomenal. Are you going to keep doing that?
I think why not, right?
Yeah.
Sounds pretty real. That's what I'm about. So
I love it. It's perfect. There seems to be, at least to me, like this cult-like following surrounding you. People really like you, and it actually reminds me, it's like the first time that I feel something like this really since the Diaz brothers. The Diaz brothers have maybe the most loyal fans out there, and they have an aura about them. They have something that people just gravitate towards, and you have it too. And I think it's because of your demeanor. I think it's because of, like you're philosophical when you speak. You don't really care about what others say, and you have this sort of edge to you that you're like, I don't, like I'm just here to do my thing, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Do you feel like you kind of gained some of that through them, or were you always this way through your time with them?
I mean, I think we all have our different personalities. Even Nick and Nate, they're real different from each other. They have a lot of similarities, but ultimately they're really different. And I think same thing. I have some similarities with them, but I'm also real different too. So I think naturally, like since we started training together, and we're both kind of on the same level with the training, and we like to work hard, and we like to, really test ourselves and deeper than the actual rounds. I don't think that most fighters they're like trying to win the round. They're trying to like do this, or they do a little bit of every martial art and they kind of mix it in. And I was always really gravitated towards Nick and Nate because they were like beyond that. If they were going to do boxing, they would be boxing with the pros, or if they were going to do races, they would be training with the pros. So I always was kind of really wanted to get closer to that. And ever since I started training with them, it's been a great help for me in a lot of different ways, and I picked up on a lot of stuff. And that's naturally going to bring me their fans, some of their fans and are going to come and they're going to see what I'm about now. And also the fans that I have from my family, they're going to gravitate towards the Diaz brothers too. So I think it's a win-win.
On ESPN Plus, they had this 2-part series where they followed you and Alex before and after the fight. It was riveting stuff for both of you. Both segments were just amazing. And for me in particular, just getting to learn more about you and hearing you talk about your late brother, it was fascinating to watch, and I appreciate you speaking the way you did. Were you thinking about him a lot on Sunday, before the fight, after the fight, thinking what he would say about all of this?
Generally, before the fight, I always think of the people that I love. I always think of the spirits that are trying to help me, and he's one of them for sure. I also have a good friend of mine who passed away last year in the middle of all this contract stuff, and that was a little bit of a delay on the contract too as well. So I know he was there protecting me too, and of course my grandfather, and all these. I know there's people, guiding me the best possible. So the day of the fight, I always try to listen if they have anything to say and connect myself to those spirits or the higher power.
Did you hear from a lot of your family members afterwards, and what was that like? I'm sure they were thrilled for you.
Yeah, everybody was really happy. It was good to hear the love. It's good to feel it.
Have you always felt that love?
With every single person that responded to me after the fight, definitely not. But I think life is, people. You have to show people who you are and what you're about before you really get anything out of it. So it's like, as much as I would like all these things to happen before the fight, sometimes you have to fight and show what you're about, and you got to stay in a cave and train your ass off until the moment comes where you get to, shine or do something. And even though I was 2 years without fighting, I was training very hard, and everybody around me knows how hard I was training. And they were all just waiting to unleash this guy who's been training in a cave. No one even sees what I'm doing, but I've been, waiting for this for a while.
Was your dad at the fight?
No, he wasn't.
Was he watching live?
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
Oh, did you hear from him afterwards?
yeah, he was happy, of course.
Right.
He's a true warrior, true competitor. So that's his number one thing. He's like always into the fighting, and when you talk to him now, he still feels like he's like a 20-year-old kid. And competitive, and has a strategy and has a plan for everything. So definitely in the genes.
And so I noted afterwards that you want to get right back in there. You don't want to waste any time. A week later, do you have any sense of when you will be returning?
I'm actually waiting for a call from the UFC to get this all moving along.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get in there as fast as possible. Throughout this last camp, I built a boxing gym right next to my gym. And basically it was like while I was training for the fight, I was also helping build this gym. And I wanted to wait for my fight to end. And now we're going to open up this gym and see if we can get a lot of good training over here. So a lot of good pro boxers coming in to spar and trying to get it set up so that I can get these fights, at the best tip-top shape.
It sounds like there's a push to have you fight on that card in Rio in May 11th. Is that too long? Would you like, in a perfect world, to return sooner?
I don't know. I think a lot of the Brazilian fans or people, they want that to happen. But personally, for me, I might want to fight in the States for a little bit because it's closer, and I've been fighting in Japan, which is like a long trip, and a lot of things got to, do to make those things happen. So I wouldn't mind fighting in the States for a little bit and then fighting in Brazil. But everybody in Brazil can watch me on TV. It's not like the UFC is not international. Anywhere I fight in the world, all the people who want to see me fight, they can watch. They can tune in on the internet or on TV and pay for it and watch it. So it's not like where I fight isn't the most important thing. I think it's the important opponents and the important getting it done when I need to get it done.
Right. And do you have a preference as to who you fight?
I think the best possible fight that they'll let me fight is where I want to fight. A motivating fight that's gonna motivate me to really perform. I was saying that stuff about Caceres not being the toughest opponent, not because he's not tough, but because I fought Kawajiri, who is such a top-ranked, tough opponent and had such a good record that I didn't want to take a step down from that. And at this point, that's where I met. So I got to show that I need a guy who's really going to motivate me to train, and a guy who is going to come and try to, put something down, not somebody who's in doubt.
Right. The number one question I got when I said that you were going to be on the show was, ask Kron if he still believes the earth is flat. And so on behalf of the people, they would like to know if you still believe the earth is flat, and if so, why?
I think they could just watch the thing on YouTube,
Okay.
They could just do that.
But you do still believe that?
Yeah, I believe the earth is flat.
And do you get a lot of feedback on these thoughts? People get very fired. Like, personally, if you believe the earth is flat, great. It doesn't bother me. But people get really fired up about this sort of thing. Do you hear from a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Like, people are always going to say something. And I'm not, trying to, promote the flat earth and, trying to, push it. And I didn't really want to even talk about it. But it's not that ultimately, no one really knows until you get into a rocket and you can fly up and really see. But I just have some doubts on some of the things, and I just don't know if there's enough information for me to believe that the earth is spinning, I mean, I don't even really want to get into this really too much. But
no, I respect it. I just, as a man of the people, I try to ask what they want. I have no problem with it. In fact, I think it's good that it doesn't seem like you're on Twitter these days, right? Because I was looking for your Twitter handle. The only one I could find was one that you were tweeting from maybe 3 or so years ago, unless I couldn't find the right one.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Sorry, say it again.
I don't have a Twitter.
Good. Yes, it's probably for the best. A lot of negativity there. It's just a lot of stuff happening over there that you probably don't want to be subjected to. So that is probably for the best. Kron, I want to congratulate you on an amazing debut, and I thought it was cool. I know you were asked about this afterwards, but even given the history between the Diaz's and Conor, for him to shout you out twice, I thought was really cool as well. By the way, did you appreciate that? Did you think that was cool, or did you feel like we made too much of a big deal about that?
You're talking about with Conor?
Yeah, like him, congratulating you afterwards, but even wishing you the best beforehand, I thought was kind of a cool thing, considering the history with Nate and him.
Yeah, I think that obviously he's been a fan of my dad, and he's been, he understands the sport, and he appreciates, and he respects where respect is due. And I think that it was cool to get that from him. But ultimately, I think he's a businessman, and he also wants to get his hands in every cookie jar possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to make a fight happen in the future if everything goes as it should.
Well, it is great to have you in the mix. Regardless, it's really cool to see what you're doing and to finally have you in the UFC. Thank you so much for doing this, Kron. I really appreciate it. Great to talk to you for the first time, and hopefully we can do it again soon. Congratulations on the win, and continued success to you and your family.
All right, thank you.
All right, there he is, Kron Gracie stopping by. Great to have him on the show. Ice Cream Kron. What a great nickname, and what a great story behind that walkout song. Wow, that is intense stuff. I love it. Okay. Let us move along. UFC 235. We haven't talked a whole lot about it, but it is an incredibly strong card. It is deep. It is headlined, of course, by John Jones versus Anthony Smith. Co-headliner is Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman. Ben Askren making his long-awaited UFC debut. There's a lot to like on this card, including the prelim headliner, which features the return of Zabit Magomed-Sharipov against veteran Jeremy Stephens, who returns. We haven't seen him since July. He joins us right now in sunny California. Wow, look at that. I am so jealous of you, Jeremy. How are you?
Fantastic, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. Congratulations on getting this big opportunity to headline the prelims on ESPN against Zabit. This is a big deal. And obviously, I'm sure you're well aware of the hype surrounding Zabit. When you were offered this fight, how aware were you of what he had done thus far and all the people talking? Like, were you familiar that this was kind of the guy that everyone was saying was a future champion, or did you learn after the fact?
Yeah, actually, when I was down in Orlando when I fought Josh Emmett, I was getting ready for the ceremonial weigh-ins. Mark Delagrati and Sean Shelby were coming over talking to me, and we kind of mentioned that kid, and I said, hey, after I take care of Josh Emmett, I'd love to go to Russia. I heard you guys are going to Russia. And Mark Delagrati just smiled and looked. He's like, man, you're crazy. He's like, you got a fight ahead of you, and you're talking about another fight. He's like, that's just you, I guess. And, I feel like a lot of people are turning down this kid, fighting this kid. Me, I look at it totally different. It's best I get my hands a hold of him now before he gets the actual fight experience, actually starts fighting some of the UFC guys and gaining that fight IQ to a whole nother level. I don't feel like he's fought anybody like me, such as myself. I don't think he ever will. And it's going to be my time come March 2nd. I get a chance to prove it to everybody in the world.
Have you watched a lot of tape on him?
I particularly don't watch a lot of tape on him. I've seen him fight before. I allow my coaches to put in the work, and I just focus on what I'm going to do. I know what his capabilities and what his best assets are. I know him. I can see him. I've seen him. I can feel it. So it's almost my time. I believe in I put my trust in my coaches. That's where my outward focus goes when I look to figure out an opponent. I let my coach Eric Del Fiero, the head coach at Alliance, figure that stuff out for me, and let my coaches just put me into the mission of what I'm going to do, what I'm going to implement my game plan, and we're going to run right through them.
Based off of what you have seen from him thus far, are you impressed?
Yeah, of course. I respect everybody who steps inside the octagon. Do I feel like he's got what it takes to beat me? Absolutely not. Of course, I'm always going to be headed one way. My opponent's going to be headed the other way, and we're going to collide. I feel like if we collide, he's going to feel the steel, and he's an aluminum type car, and I'm going to run right through him, like I said. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to fight such a talented young man, a Russian, somebody I've never really fought before, and his style. So I'm looking forward to the challenge, and I'm going to welcome it. And he's going to really feel what it's like to be in there with somebody like me.
I know you say that you haven't watched a lot on him. I respect that. I know your coach does a lot of that. But in terms of what you know or what you've talked about, in terms of the holes in his game that you're looking to exploit, because you know, everyone's glowing about him, but we don't talk a lot about his holes. Have you pinpointed holes? And if so, can you share some of them with us?
Yeah. You know, I have no problem opening up his holes in his game. He lacks a lot of just basic boxing, basic setups. You know, he likes to do the flashy stuff, but, you know, can you really do that for 15 minutes and be spinning around 15 minutes? I doubt it. And there's going to be opportunities to exploit that. I feel like he has been exploited in some of his fights. He doesn't hit very hard, and people have been able to walk right through and smile at his little, you know, pillow punches. As far as his best asset, I feel like it's his grappling, his ground game. His body locks are really good. His wrestling's really good. His submissions are real funky. He's got a basic leg rider, which is very tricky. He does offer some problems, but we have the solution.
Would it be a fair thing to say that he's never fought anyone as tough as you? Do you believe that?
I believe in that 100%. I feel like he's never fought anybody as tough as me, but not only do I bring toughness because tough guys don't last in the sport. It's people willing to make changes, adapt, grow, learn, overcome. You know, I don't lose, I learn. I come back stronger than ever. I come back better than ever. And I always come with ferociousness, like, damn, like Jeremy Stephens is getting older, but he's getting better. And I get a chance to go do that on a main event to a whole new crowd of ESPN who probably don't know who the guy I am. And I get to go in and make an example out of a young hype train once again and get it proof to the people who the fuck I really am. So what a great opportunity. Like I said, I'm welcoming the challenge, and I get to go prove myself once again and just prove of how good I really am and how much better I can be when I learn from losses and learn from each time I step inside that octagon.
Speaking of evolving and adapting, you're coming off a loss to Jose Aldo. Prior to that, you probably looked the best that you've ever looked in your career. You had won 3 in a row. And from what I was told, you've done a lot of growing, a lot of evolving since that loss in July. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. What do people mean when they say that to me, that you've done a lot, you've worked on yourself, that you've grown a lot? What have you been doing behind the scenes?
Well, first, you know, I'd like to acknowledge you and your breakthrough with Dominic Cruz. I ended up watching that interview that you did with him, and you just seemed so mind blowing. And you said that, man, when I was getting taken out and escorted, you know, Dominic was getting his hand raised, and then the vice versa turns around. You know, I basically went to a mental program. And, you know, as a kid, I've been through so much. You know, I've been through living in a shelter, living in a car, and just lived through so much abuse in my childhood, going through 14 different elementary schools. And I was never really able to talk about that. And I let that affect me and patterns in my life. I was able to go through a program and find out a lot about myself in this program. I followed alongside Dominic. My coach, Eric Del Fiero, always went through this program. And it really helped me just find myself mentally, helped me find my confidence. And, you know, as a kid, when you go through stuff like that, I was really realizing I was failing at my biggest moments. Like, why every time do I fail at my biggest moment? And, you know, to be completely honest with you, I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't, you know, why should a young kid from Des Moines, Iowa be a champion? You know, and right as I was about to get my title break, I would just drop the ball. There was no self-confidence. You know, those things were holding me back. I was able to dig deep, really go in, get some tools, get some coaching from some of the best people in the world. That was better than any type of counseling that I've ever been to. And it's really helped me grow tremendously with my relationships, even with my wife and my relationships at home with my kids. You know, after that loss, it wasn't even about the fight. It was just these patterns in my life that was really setting me back. I was literally ready to change my life, like change my wife, change my house, change my car, you know, let alone like I was thinking like suicidal thoughts. And little did I know, once I got into this program, all I had to do was change my mindset, find some tools, discover a little bit more about myself, dig a little bit deeper, share these things with people so that, you know, they can see where I come from, and I can also learn from their life experiences as well. And when I saw that interview with you and Dominic, I just seen how mind-blowing you were about how he was able to share and open up some vulnerability in his life and what he's going through and the painness and the sadness. You know, people look at us as fighters, and yes, I'm probably one of the toughest dudes you'll ever meet, but I've also been, you know, down in the dumps alongside some of the real people in the world. You know, I'm a real human being. I'm a person. I have feelings. I have emotions. You know, and I have a family myself. So all this growth has been after the fight and through the end of the year. And going through this program has really put me on another level mentally, and it's helped my training. I've seen how it's affected my relationships and opening me up to a whole new world. And yet again, I get to go in on ESPN on a main event and go in there, balls big, hand swing, and take advantage of an opportunity against a young man.
Wow, that is incredible. Thank you for sharing that. So in some respects, the Jose Aldo loss was one of the best things to ever happen to you.
For sure.
Wow.
100%. It was a big breakthrough in my life where, I had to figure out these patterns of why am I failing at my biggest moment? Why is that? It had nothing to do with him, because honestly, if we run that back, I win 9 times out of 10. And, going there and discovering and learning about myself, there's never a fight with an opponent. It's a fight with yourself at times. So getting there and discovering me, Jeremy Stevens, the young little kid, the insecure kid who was bullied bullied growing up, been through so much ups and downs and seen so much crazy stuff happen in his life. I really got to figure that little kid out and go back to that innocent little kid who's loving, compassionate, courageous, has got a big heart, will give you a shirt off his back, will reach out to anybody in the world and help him out. So I really got to go back to that fun, loving kid again, and it feels great. I'm in a really good place in my life, mentally, physically, and I'm looking sharp, and I'm feeling sharp, and I can't wait to go and capitalize March 2nd.
And just want to ask one more thing about that. So you were feeling suicidal after the fight against Jose. Is that the first time you've ever experienced that?
I feel like when I was younger, I was experiencing that maybe in high school. Hormones were raging. I was a kid who didn't really have too many friends growing up. And then once my dad got custody of me and going through middle school and into high school, I was feeling suicidal back in them days. I never attempted suicide, but I was feeling in a really, really dark place. And I don't think I've ever really shared that with anybody. And after the fight, I was looking at my kids who were 9 and 7, and that was when my parents split up. It was when I was 8 years old. And just these patterns, I was almost like ready to go down that pattern. Like I said, I was ready to leave my wife, leave my kids, and just leave it all, change my house, change my car. I was thinking suicidal thoughts. And not until my coach, Eric Del Fiero, saved my life and got me involved in that program that we're talking about. And it's been a blessing. It's, when I came back out of those classes, man, I went over to Eric and I gave him a big hug and I cried in his arms. And I was like, man, thank you for saving my life. You have no idea what this has done for me. And that just goes to show how impactful this program really is and what it's really done for me.
Wow. And what is it called? Perhaps someone else might be interested in taking those classes.
Choice Center. It's Choice Center in Las Vegas. It's a leadership program. It's a leadership university. One of the head ladies out there is Robin Williams. She's one of the most successful coaches in emotional intelligence. It's really what it is an emotional intelligence EQ program.
And did you have to sleep there?
No, I got to stay in my own hotel room.
Okay.
In Vegas. It's a 4-day program, and then you're off a week, and then you go 4 days into the next week, and then you can go through the leadership, and that's the part that really starts becoming life. You get pumped up in the classroom, and you get a lot of stuff out, and I can't really share the experience because you got to get people in there, and they get to have their own experience, and then you get to go into a leadership program, which is 100 days. And the program is really basically with how you're dealing with everyday life. And you have tremendous coaches and people there alongside you, helping you along the way and through your journey. And they're pushing you towards your goals and everything that you declare.
I got to say, I was looking forward to this fight. Now you have you've just made this one of the fights that I'm most looking forward to on this card. I mean, it's really incredible. I had no idea about everything that you've been through and had to overcome and how you've changed since the last time we saw you in there. So I can't thank you enough for sharing that with us. And now you have just, in my opinion, raised the level of interest going into this fight. I'm excited. I feel like we're about to see a new Jeremy Stevens out there. So that's a pretty amazing thing considering how many times we've seen you in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I was really closed off back in the past. I really, no one knew who the fuck I was because I was so closed off. I came off as a mean, arrogant, cocky type person. I feel like being able to tap into my life and share these moments, maybe there's some kid out there listening who's going through some things that I've been through, if not maybe worse. and I can help them along the way. I really found my purpose in this program, and that is my purpose is, kids who are going through those times and living, alone or suicidal or just going through life and don't think you can make it. Trust me, I'm an example of if you don't ever give up and you choose the right path, you can make it. You can do anything in your life. You just got to have it here. And that's really what this program has done for me. I've really found my purpose. I know what I'm fighting for. And like I said, March 2nd, main event, it's going to be fireworks.
Much respect, Jeremy. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished, and I can't wait to see you out there in Las Vegas. Safe travels. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for opening up, and good luck in the fight on Saturday.
Hey, thank you, Ariel. As always, man, you're one of the best out there, man. I really appreciate you giving me the platform to share my story. And tune in. Main event, ESPN, baby. We're gonna shock the world.
I cannot wait. There he is, little heathen, Jeremy Stephens. Wow, what a story. Unbelievable. And yes, he will be headlining the prelims on ESPN this Saturday. What a great card it is, top to bottom. Pay-per-view is great. There's the full slate of coverage, 6:15 early prelims, and then 8 o'clock on ESPN, main card, 10 p.m. on pay-per-view, UFC 235 this Sunday. Okay, let's go back to Phoenix. We spoke about Kron Gracie. We talked to Francis Ngannou last week. I have been monitoring the story of Paul Felder over the past week or so. We thought that perhaps he could be on the show last week. He was going to get out of the hospital, no big deal. Then we found out that he had a collapsed lung, that he had to stay a few extra days. Then we found out on Wednesday that he had to have surgery. Well, he is finally out of the hospital and on the comeback trail, hoping to go home, I think, in the next day or so. He is kind enough to be joining us from a hotel in Phoenix. He is still there. So let us go to Paul Felder right now, who was there for a quick second. Now we went to the phone screen, but I think he's still there. Paul, are you there? Oh, we lost him. Oh, there. Paul, you there?
Hello. I'm here.
Thank you for joining us, Paul. So you're still in Phoenix, right?
Yes, I am. I am
there
wandering around Phoenix right now. Sorry. And in a car. Just got something to eat. So now we're taking my daughter to a butterfly sanctuary or something right now.
Well, this is great. Fun. Yeah, totally different from what you experienced last Sunday. How are you feeling?
I feel a lot better today, Ariel. The last few days, I'm not gonna lie, that they downplayed that surgery really well to me, making me, think it wasn't going to be anything other than a couple little snip here, a little snip there, patch your lung back together, you're back to new. Well, it felt like somebody was just tearing my insides out with a rusty blade for a little while there, but now I feel good.
Okay, so this was as a result of a knee that you took to the chest late in that fight, late in the third round. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that final knee that James hit me with actually popped a bubble, which apparently was already existing on my lung, which I didn't know about. And I was breathing out just as the right time when he landed that nice knee up the middle, and it popped this bubble on the surface of my lung, which caused it to open up and then obviously collapse.
Wow. And could you tell, what did you feel when that happened, when he connected with that knee?
Well, at first it just felt like any good knee to the chest that you take, where I felt my chest compress. I thought maybe he'd broken a rib. But at first it didn't seem like anything some ice and some ibuprofen wouldn't take care of. And then I'm walking around, I'm doing more and more interviews, and I'm having trouble taking a deep breath. But I thought it was because my ribs were really tight and maybe broken, not because my actual lung was malfunctioning. And the doctor, Feinstein, who was the doctor cage side with us, one of the physicians who's a surgeon at the hospital I ended up going to, he kept taking a look at me and just seeing me breathe and grab my side, and he started thinking that there was, more to it than maybe just some bruised ribs.
So you went to the hospital, and that's when you found out?
Yeah, so we went to actually have my kidneys looked at, right? So anytime you take a big body shot, there's a chance you might pee a little blood. So I did after the fight. I did it after Edson too. I mean, it's nothing I haven't seen in my career before. So I was a little concerned about that. I told the doctors, and they're like, okay, we just want to make sure it's nothing serious, like a laceration anywhere. So they took me in to look at my kidney.
Wow.
They weren't even there to look at my lungs. And I almost was like going to skip out on that and not go to the hospital. And then if I would have got up into the airplane the next day, my whole lung would have most likely collapsed.
Oh my!
And that could have stopped my heart.
Wow. Well, I'm really happy you went to the hospital.
Yeah, man,
that's insane.
I'm so happy, man. That's all everybody kept saying. Like my teammates and everybody that was involved, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that doctor was kind of on you." And he wouldn't let me go to the press conference. I did the ESPN desk, and if you watch me on the ESPN desk, I'm struggling to breathe. And they wanted to do a press conference with me, and I obviously, being excited off the win, really wanted to go. And this doctor he's like, "No, man." He's like, "You did the ESPN desk, you got your name out there." He's like, "Let's just get this done. You'll be in and out if there's nothing wrong. You'll be in and out." Well, 7 days later.
And why did they decide to put you under the knife? How did it go from, okay, we have to stay a little longer, to actually having surgery?
So normally they put those tubes in, and the tubes will inflate your lung to the point where it'll eventually heal itself. So they did that for 2 days straight. They tried to do that, and it just wasn't taking. They said you never know. It's one of those things where sometimes your body will heal itself on its own. Other times you got to go in there surgically and do it. I mean, and to them, this really wasn't any big surgery whatsoever to these guys. It was just some pain and discomfort for me. And really what bothered me more than anything was being away from Philly, being away from my coaches, friends, family, daughter, everybody for 6 days. I'm used to, having one day, hanging out with the team and then going back home.
Right.
But yeah, so that's why they had to go. And I could have waited 2 or 3 more days and kept trying and just spent more and more days with this tube in me in the hospital. Or they're like, we can go through some discomfort, get this thing patched up, and it'll never happen again.
Yeah, I can't imagine that feeling, because you're probably like a caged animal at that point. You just want to go home, right? And you're sitting there and you're still feeling like you stayed at the party a little too long and you can't be there with your family and celebrate. That must have been incredibly frustrating, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was tough, man. And you just want to go and relax and have a good time. And there's nurses and doctors checking on me every 4 hours, every 2 hours, giving me medications, giving me blood thinners, and so I don't clot and all this stuff. And X-ray once, if not twice a day. So I got all this extra radiation going through me too. Not pleasant, Ariel.
But Twitter came through, right? Didn't you get a few meals via your Twitter fame?
I did. There were some people that sent some Mexican food and some tres leches cakes, and Kelly Paul, the UFC coordinator, the medical coordinator, was there with me the whole week.
Wow.
She stayed with me the whole week. Obviously, she still, she had the hotel at the host hotel, but during the day, man, she was doing her work right there in my hotel room. I'm looped out of my mind half the time. And
that's
so
incredible.
UFC, they came through for me, man. They got the family out here and the baby girl out here, and get to at least just eat and go have some dinners and see some butterflies with these guys before I head home.
And so you were discharged last night. When can you go home?
Wednesday afternoon, they're gonna clear me to go home.
Okay. And I know you were probably bummed that you missed your TV assignment in Prague, because I know how much you like doing that. That must have been annoying, right?
I wanted to go to Prague.
Right.
I really wanted to go to Prague.
Realistically, how long is this going to put you out for? Not the TV stuff, the fighting stuff.
Probably a few months.
Okay.
If I wanted to fight then, I probably could. Fight at this point, that was a big win. I took out a guy a lot of people don't want to fight. We beat him. We got that number 10 spot, and now it's got to be a little bit strategic and smart and try to really move our way up the rankings.
By the way, does it hurt to speak right now?
No, not really. I mean, I'm dealing with some discomfort still. There's still some tightness in the ribs where they did they opened my rib up a little bit and had to cut through some muscle. And they have to scrape the outside of your lung.
Wow.
The way I describe it, I mean, I'm no surgeon. We all know that. But they like texture it so that it actually adheres to the inside of your ribs, like your inside of your chest wall, so that it doesn't collapse. Even if it were to get another puncture, it wouldn't collapse because it is now bound to the inside of my chest.
Man, wow. Well, that is intense stuff. You're going to make a full recovery, all well, and you get to be with your family now. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to check in with you, Paul, and see how you're doing and see exactly what happened. I appreciate you doing this while you are with your family. Enjoy the butterflies, my man. Smell the roses. Take a load off, and I hope you make a speedy recovery, and we'll see you back out there soon.
Hey, thanks, man. You will see me back out there soon, and it'll be a big fight. I'm hoping a main event coming up next.
All right. You deserve that. We look forward to it. Thank you,
Thanks.
Paul. All the best.
All right. Take care, brother.
There he is, Paul Felder. Wow, what a story. A knee to the ribs leads to a collapsed lung, and then surgery. Now, thankfully, he is back. He is out. Going to go home on Wednesday. Certainly wish him the best. Okay, one more guest, and we have been wanting to talk to him, of course, for the last 2 weeks, along the same lines as the Paul Felder story. Of course, you recall that at UFC 234 was supposed to be headlined by Kelvin Gastelum versus Robert Whittaker. Unfortunately, the day of the fight, we found out that Robert had suffered a collapsed bowel and an internal hernia, and he had to have an emergency surgery in Melbourne, Australia. Thankfully, he is back home in Sydney, and I am very thankful for the fact that he is able to join us right now on the program. There he is, the middleweight champion of the UFC, Robert Whittaker. Robert, how are you? Thank you for doing this.
How very good, mate. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, it is a pleasure, and it's great to see you this time. I really appreciate it. I know it's early over there in Sydney. Okay, so first things first, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I feel good. You know, obviously I feel blessed to be able to be sitting here and be happy like this. My still feel a bit funny in the lower regions, like my intestines and my stomach, but you know, I'm positive. I'm very positive.
That is good to hear. So now that we've established that, would like to go back to when all this started. When did you first start to feel any kind of discomfort as far as that region is concerned?
It was about 2 p.m. after the weigh-in. So
Okay.
2 p.m. after the weigh-in, I started getting stomach cramps to the point where I couldn't drink or eat anymore. And obviously, after a weigh-in, rehydrating and refueling is pretty important. So, you know, I started getting those cramps, and I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, and that wasn't too bad. I thought maybe I'm just tired. I'm just going to go to sleep, you know, rest it off. And then I started like violently throwing up all the water that I had just consumed, and you know, all the good stuff. So yeah, it went downhill very quickly.
And prior to that, you didn't feel any kind of discomfort?
No, there was nothing. Just out of the blue, I started getting stomach aches, and then it got much, much worse, and to the point where I was throwing up everywhere, and I couldn't stand the pain. The pain was out of this world.
I remember when we spoke, when you were on my show the Monday of that fight, and I asked you about, you know, last year and the bad luck that you had with the chicken pox and all that stuff. That camp was fine. Like in retrospect, there were no warning signs at all?
No, there was nothing. Like I was coming into this fight the best I had ever been. You know, if you look at me on that stage when I'm at the weigh-in, that was the leanest and the strongest I've ever looked. You know, in my open workout, that was the best I've ever performed. Yeah, I was looking for a strong fight. It's funny. I feel like this is deja vu. Like we've had this conversation before.
I know. Last year, it's crazy. And now here you are. Thankfully, once again, you're okay. So you start to throw up. You start to feel very sick, stomach aches. Who convinces you to go to the hospital? And how do you go to are you in so much pain that you had to call an ambulance? How did that go down? Your trip to the hospital?
Yeah, so I was just in so much pain, throwing up, and I think it was clocking on to 1 a.m. Sorry, and my coaching staff and the doctors had been talking, and at this point I still think eventually the pain will subside, I'll fall asleep, and then I'll go fight the next day. But I think they were having a very different discussion, and then about 1 p.m. I woke up and I started throwing up again, and this time I had already thrown up everything I had, so it was just like dry heaving at that point. And it just hurt so much that I was like, I need to go somewhere. And then the doctors came in, they saw me, the way I was throwing up, and they called an ambulance, and I was rushed to hospital, put on drips, heart monitors and stuff. And
wow,
within the span of 3-4 hours, they were like, nah, you need emergency surgery or you're going to die.
Oh my God. They actually said that to you?
Yeah, because collapsed bowel is pretty serious.
My God. And how does that happen? Now do you know how how would you actually experience something as horrific? I mean, it sounds like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's just it's funny. It's like as serious as the surgery was and the injury and the illness, the overwhelming feeling was embarrassment. It's and I know it doesn't make sense, but man, like that was my fight. This is the second time I've had to pull out of a fight in my home country, and it was embarrassing for me.
That was actually my next question. When you came to terms with the fact that this fight was not happening, that it was going to get canceled literally hours before, how did you react to that?
Yeah, like I said, not well, not well. It was crushing. It was crushing. Thankfully, like from the moment that I got my illness, it was a matter of just going through the surgery. I was highly medicated, the anesthetic, and then I wasn't really coherent till like about Tuesday. so the event had come and gone by then, and everyone was talking about the next one.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there you are spending another week in the hospital, but thankfully you are home now. Have the doctors given you any kind of theory as to like what happened? How could this happen? And I'm wondering, is it in any way related to what you experienced last year? Because didn't you have an internal problem with a staph infection with your stomach? Is it at all related with that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't related at all. The reasons for a twisted bowel is generally either previous surgery, which I've never had, which is why it was so strange, or trauma. And then I was like, well, I do fight for a living, so it could be something like that. But they're like, nah, it's usually like a car accident sort of trauma. You've injured yourself.
Wow.
And nothing came to mind. Nothing came to mind at all.
I had heard, based on what was said afterwards, that had you somehow made it to the fight, and if you were kicked in the stomach in the fight, that this could have been fatal. Were you told the same?
Yeah, I was. The doctors had told me that morning before.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was the UFC? I mean, this is obviously a big deal for them going in there. I'm sure no one felt worse than you, but in terms of your experience, your time talking to them, whatever you heard, I'm sure your management dealt with them a lot. But how did they handle the news based on what you heard?
Yeah, the UFC doctors and staff were amazing. They got me in, and they saw me that I had the best care and the best doctors and the best scans, best surgeons coming in and making sure everything was done professionally and well done. Dana himself was very supportive. He came into the hospital and saw the state I was in, so there was no doubt as to why I wasn't fighting. There were a lot of people saying, "Oh, he knew he was sick. He was going to pull out." It's like, why would I cut weight?
Right. Yeah. Seriously.
And then pull out. It's like I would have done it the other way around, surely.
The surgery, how was it? How long was it?
I'm not too sure. Like I said, after once I went in with the anesthetics and all the pain meds that I was on, it's kind of blurry, a bit hazy from about Saturday night through to about Monday, Tuesday.
And what have they told you in terms of how long it will take for you to feel like yourself, feel back to 100%? What's the recovery time?
Well, they said that after about 2 weeks I can start to walk again.
Okay.
And then about 4 weeks I can start to ease back into training and movement and things like that, and then just take it from there.
Okay, so right now you can't walk?
No, I can walk. Like I think they're giving me a scale of someone who doesn't do very much. Like
right.
I'm walking. The main thing is not to lift, because obviously my intestines and bowels are a bit funny, and the scarring on the cuts that I had to get.
Yeah. So but you have like a general feeling of discomfort right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah, when someone goes in and prods and pokes your intestines, it leaves you a little bit uncomfortable for a while.
I can imagine. I also imagine you probably didn't watch the event. Am I wrong?
I did watch a little bit, but it was hard. Like I said, it was very hazy.
Yeah. Did you have a reaction of any kind when you saw Kelvin show up to the event with the belt, saying that he's the champion now? You didn't show up. He got a lot of heat for that. What did you make of that scene?
I thought it was cute. It's when your kid finds your work belt at home and starts wearing it around the house, and it's adorable. So I thought it was funny.
Did you feel like it was in poor taste?
Oh no, it is what it is. I think if you've got any sort of spotlight on yourself and you're not using that in a way that can make a lasting impact, then you're a little silly.
And what about what Israel said after the fight as well, saying that he should be fighting for the belt, that you didn't show up to work and it's not the first time. Did you feel like any of that was below the belt, considering the state that you were currently in?
It just says a lot about him, and I think a lot of people saw that. It's just it is what it is. If the only time they want to try and attack me is when I'm down, so if I would have still rocked up, I think I would have had a pretty good chance still to win. So
even with the collapsed bow.
Even with the collapsed bow, I would have had a heart monitor on me and still won, I reckon.
Was there ever any talk afterwards of stripping you, to the best of your knowledge?
Not that I know of. Not that it really matters though, because the whole thing is just I had to get my health underway. There was literally no way I could have fought that fight, and what will be will be. But UFC were very supportive of me. They like I said, Dana came in, he saw the state I was in. Like I wasn't faking anything, and they know I come to fight. If I can fight, I do fight, and I leave my heart out there. I always have interesting and exciting fights, and I think I have a huge supporting down here in the Australasian area.
So late last week, they announced that it's going to be Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum for the interim title. What was your reaction to that news?
I was happy for them to, if they want to. I think it's good. I think it's good for both of them. I think they jumped the queue a little bit, and I feel for the other middleweight contenders. The top dudes, but I think it's good for them to fight it out, to have that run before they have to get a shot at me. I need a little bit of time, and they've got something to do now.
So you say you think they jumped the queue. I'm assuming that you're referring to Israel, since Kelvin had the title shot.
Yeah, well, exactly. Even Kelvin only just beat Jacare and lost to Weidman.
Right.
But Adesanya hasn't really fought anyone in the top 5. It's you can I'm sure if you go out there and you go ask the other 1, 2, 3, 4, they're kind of like, what's going on?
Is there anyone else that comes to mind that you think is more deserving?
I don't think it's a matter of I don't think it's about deserving the shot. I think every middleweight fighter deserves a shot at it. I think it's just how it's played out. The middleweight rankings, you would know, middleweight rankings have been a bit funny for the last few years. So, it is what it is. I think it'll be a very interesting fight. I think that's the first fight, that for Adesanya that it could pose a bit of a problem. So we'll see.
Yeah, I heard that you said last week, I believe on your podcast, that he's not as good as he thinks he is. Did you feel impressed at all by what he did against Anderson, or do you still feel like there's a lot to be seen there, a lot to prove from Israel Adesanya?
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with his performance against Anderson. If anything, I was impressed with Anderson's performance against Adesanya. Anderson is not in his heyday anymore. He is like easily on his way out. Everyone can see that. And for Anderson to put up such a good fight, I gave Anderson that second round. For him to put up such a strong fight against a dude that's on a tear with such a high level striking skill set, and is running through people. I thought props to Anderson. Adesanya is very good. Don't get me wrong. He's very, very, very good. I think he's trying to build a hype train that doesn't exist.
So you're not jumping on that bandwagon just yet. You feel like there's more for him to do to prove that he is worthy of all this hype.
100%. like get Adesanya to run the gauntlet like I did, and then, let's see if he looks the same afterwards.
Does it jerk your chain at all when you hear him talking about you and just what's to come and who he is, and you feel this way clearly? Does it get under your skin? Does it bother you?
Not at all. Absolutely not. I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. Like I said, I'm trying to use my spotlight in a positive way. Pushing education with the programs I'm running, and working down at the gym, just doing my thing. I'm running my scene. Whatever he's doing, is his business. We'll meet eventually.
Yeah. Do you acknowledge the fact though that this could be one of the biggest fights ever? I mean, certainly in that region, whether it's in Sydney or Melbourne or New Zealand, like this could be Etihad Stadium worthy, 55,000 plus. Do you agree with that?
I think any fight that I go to becomes the biggest fight in the area.
Okay, so with that in mind, considering what happened the last 2 years, are you maybe thinking, you know what, let's take a break from fighting in Australia because weird stuff just seems to happen?
It seems that way. It really does. But I'm not one to quit.
Yeah.
I'm not one to quit. So I'm gonna keep striving for that, for my hometown fight. And I think at this stage I owe the people a fight here. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep striving for it.
Realistically, did they say to you when you could return? Not so much train, but like what's a real, like, September, August? Do you have a time frame in mind?
Yeah, I'm looking. I've penned in my diary August, but my biggest calendar is just my health.
Yeah.
I've never had a hard timeline on when I fight ever. It's just one of those things that I need to get better. Once I'm better, I train and then I fight to the best of my ability. So I think August is a good date. I think obviously I have to let Adesanya and Gastelum fight, and then when they're ready, I'll give them a run.
Are you the type to lick your wounds? Like, are you in the mourning period now? Are you still feeling down?
It's not down. I don't feel down as much as it's funny. It's funny. Like I'm coming on your show, and I feel like an imposter because I didn't fight, but all the processes after the fight were the same. I had to have weeks off because I've been injured, because I've been sick, and I cut weight, so like I was skinny, I was lean at the time. It's just a funny little period. But I'm staying on top of things. I have a great team, I have great business partners, and we're working on the next things.
In other words, perhaps like you never got that release, right? Like you went through the whole camp, you cut the weight, you did the weigh-ins, and you never had that chance to show off what you had been working on. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly that. There was no work put in. It's like it's hard. It's like studying for an exam and then not having the exam. But then being told you don't need to study anymore afterwards.
Right.
It's a funny little. Yeah, it's funny. I guess one of the biggest things is that I just keep reminding myself of I really was truly blessed for them to have picked this up and for me to have walked away with no lasting illnesses or implications.
Any concerns at all about your long-term health or how this will affect your career? Are you afraid that this might cut it short or just change the course of your career now?
Not at all. And that's the biggest thing. If we didn't get onto this, it would have had a very lasting impact on not just my career. That would have been secondary on my life. It would have shortened my lifespan and it would have changed the way I was able to live. So for us to have been able to find this, even, the way we did, is, I'm blessed. I really am. I have to be.
I'm happy to hear that you are taking that approach because I wholeheartedly agree with you. Just curious, is there any part of you that is hoping that one guy wins on April 13th? Because now I feel like you've got something with both, right? You've got Kelvin who's walking around with the title saying he's the champ. You've got Israel saying what he's. Who are you rooting for on April 13th? And don't say may the best man win. Give us something, Robert. We know you have. We know you have thoughts.
I think stylistically for us, I think I'm a better. Adesanya matches up better for me.
Okay.
I think I can get in. I think I can get inside his guard and I can put heat on him. I think Gastelum is a hard fight because he's a tough guy with a thick head, and he would have just put the pressure on, put the pace on. I think Adesanya doesn't like pacing like that sort of way. I think he would have tried playing a distance game with me, which is I'm very happy to do. But I'm very quick, and I surprise a lot of people with that. So I think that's not an easier fight. Wrong word. It's a better fight for me. But plus, of course, with the area and our countries, and I think it would have been a great matchup. I think a better thing.
Yeah.
I think a better thing to ask is if Adesanya and Gastelum are going to fight for Cejudo's belt, or if it's going to be a new one. Does he give it back? I'm not sure.
Well played. Why do you say that? I thought that the UFC gave him that title.
Who knows? Maybe Cejudo has to fight Adesanya next.
That's right. Wow, wouldn't that be something? So, based on what you said, do you think Adesanya wins? Like, are you predicting him to win, or is that just what you're kind of feeling in terms of what you want?
Not at all. I honestly couldn't give you an accurate prediction on who will win. I think Gastelum has the skill set to really make it hard for Adesanya. I think he could either just take him down, beat him up, or he could land a power left, or Adesanya could keep Gastelum on the edge of his jab, edge of his kicks, and pick him apart until it's too much. I honestly think the scale will tip either way, but quite significantly. It'll either be a whitewash in one direction or whitewash in the other.
Well, most importantly, so happy to hear that you're okay, Robert. Truly am. I'm sorry that this happened again to you, and I'm sorry that you've had to deal with the surgery and the aftermath of feeling discomfort, but so happy that you're okay and that you're going to be okay. Again, can't thank you enough. I hope that we never have these conversations again about what's going on internally and bad luck. I only hope the best for you and that you make a speedy recovery and can play out the rest of your career with only good news and good fortune. So rest up. Hope you have a speedy recovery. Thank you again for doing this, especially early in the morning over there. And enjoy the time off. I think you deserve it at this point, with or without the fact that you got to fight just a couple of weeks ago in Melbourne.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, we got to stop meeting like this.
Yeah, I know. We need to change it up. After your next win, we will talk on better terms.
Sir.
All right. Thank you, Robert. All the best to you. There he is, the middleweight champion, Robert Whittaker. Unbelievable what he has been through. And I'm sorry for putting you all through that. Collapsed lung, collapsed bowel, internal hernia. That is the sport of MMA. There's a lot of things that happen internally that are not fun, that are not very appealing. But that's why I have so much respect for these men and women. It's an incredible thing. Before I go, quickly, UFC 235, as I said, coming up on Saturday. Some other news. Mackenzie Dern, Mazel Tov, you are pregnant. Wow. She's not going to fight at 115 after all. By the way, what about that UFC 234 buy rate? 175, not bad considering the fact that the main event didn't happen. Anderson Silva fought in the main event of that card. As reported by our own Brett Okamoto, he is returning on May 11th against Jared Cannonier. Again, that card moving from Curitiba to Rio. Kat Zingano lost her appeal to have the loss to Megan Anderson overturned. Last week, she went to the California State Athletic Commission. The UFC is returning to Ottawa on May 4th. That is very exciting. PVZ, Paige Van Zandt, returning at UFC 236 against Poliana Botelho. Yushin Okami has signed with one. Vitor Belfort is talking to one, but no deal just yet. And the light heavyweight and welterweight titles are on the line this Saturday in Las Vegas. Quickly, let me tell you about our coverage this Saturday, or I should say Friday and Saturday from Las Vegas. There it is, official weigh-in show, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on ESPN Plus. Then the pre-fight show on ESPN Plus, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 to 6. Wow, Corporate Jake actually put it in there. I am shocked. Consider me surprised. We're on the radio again, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, national radio, this show. We're taking your calls. I want to hear from a lot of you. Had a lot of fun doing it the last 2 times. Now we're going to do it even better. So 4 to 6 on Saturday. Put that on your calendar. Then we'll have the Twitter show on YouTube and Twitter, pre-fight, Chael and I, and the rest of the crew from the T-Mobile Arena, and then post-fight show immediately following the main event, Saturday night in Las Vegas, UFC 235, the return of Johnny Bones Jones against Anthony Smith, Kamaru Usman versus Tyron Woodley. What a great card it is. There it is. Last time got trigger happy.
I know, I got you.
And this time you wait for me. I appreciate that. You've learned your lesson. That's what happens when it's the nose world order, my friends. Another great day in the books. Let me do it here because can't see it because of the microphone. So we spoke to a lot of people. By the way, still kind of blown away by Jeremy Stephens. Like that last stretch there from Jeremy Stephens to Paul Felder to Robert Whittaker, all kinds of emotions going through my body. Really intense stuff. Anyhow, I want to thank everyone who stopped by. I want to thank all our guests. I want to thank all of you, whether you listened, whether you watched, whether you consumed it in any other kind of way. I appreciate it very much. I want to congratulate everyone at PFL for coming here. You've joined the winning team. You've joined the new world order, the NWO, the Nose World Order, as I like to call it. That's very exciting stuff. Really cool of Peter Murray and Kayla Harrison to join us in studio to talk about that momentous announcement. PFL coming to ESPN. Wow. Thank you very much to Stefan Struve. Congratulations to him. Thank you very much to James Gallagher. Congratulations to him. Thank you very much to Tatiana Suarez. Again, thank you to Kayla Harrison and Peter Murray. Thank you very much to Dustin Poirier, Firas Zahabi, Kron Gracie, Jeremy Stephens, Robert Whittaker, and Paul Felder. Back next week, same time and place. Until I say peace, I'm out of here.